They told her monsters would tear her apart. They were wrong. What waited beyond those gates was far worse. Welcome back to another epic tale of survival and power. Today's story is about a woman condemned to die, walking barefoot into a frozen hell, only to discover that the real monsters weren't the ones behind the gates. They were the ones who sent her there. This is a story of sacrifice, savage loyalty, and a choice that breaks a centuries-old curse. If you're ready for 2 hours of raw emotion, brutal battles, and a woman who refuses to die quietly, stick around until the end. Don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now, let's begin. The wind carried screams that night. Not human screams, those had stopped years ago. These were older, sharper, like the mountain itself was exhaling fury across the valley. Erin Vale stood at the edge of her village with bare feet sinking into snow that hadn't melted in 17 years. The cold bit through skin, muscle, down to bone. She didn't flinch, couldn't afford to. Behind her, the entire village of Harrow's End had gathered in the central square, their faces lit by torchlight, and something uglier, relief. Relief that it wasn't them. "Move," said Elder Croft, his voice thin and sharp as winter wind. He was old enough to remember when the valley had seasons, when crops grew and children didn't die of cold before their 5th birthday. That memory had curdled inside him into something mean. Erin took a step forward. The chains wrapped around her wrists jingled softly. Silver chains. They'd told her silver was for protection, but she knew better. Silver was for binding, for making sure whatever lived up in those mountains knew exactly what was being offered. "Wait." The voice cut through the crowd like a knife. Erin didn't turn. She didn't need to. She knew that voice better than her own heartbeat. "Mira, don't." Erin's voice came out steady. That was good. She'd practiced keeping it steady. Her sister pushed through the crowd, 14 years old and still stupid enough to think love could change anything. Mira's face was blotchy from crying. Her dark hair, same as Erin's, tangled around her shoulders. "You can't go," Mira said, grabbing Erin's arm. The chains rattled between them. "You can't. They can take me instead. I'm the one who was chosen. I'm a child," Erin interrupted. She met her sister's eyes and saw the same brown irises she saw in her own reflection every morning. The same stubborn tilt to the jaw. The same absolute inability to back down from a fight. It was going to get Mira killed someday, just not today. "You're a child, and I'm not letting them feed you to whatever's up there." "The lottery was fair," Elder Croft said. His breath steamed in the frigid air. "The girl was chosen. The tribute must be given before the new moon, or the winter will never end." Erin finally turned to face the crowd. 200 people, give or take. That's all that was left of Harrow's End. 200 cold, desperate people who'd convinced themselves that sacrificing one girl every generation would somehow fix the eternal winter that had locked the valley in ice since before Erin was born. The first tribute had been her mother. Erin had been 6 years old when they dressed her mother in white silk and silver chains and marched her up the mountain path. She remembered standing exactly where Mira stood now, remembered screaming until her throat bled, remembered her father holding her back with arms that shook. Her father was dead now. Froze to death 3 winters ago when the fuel ran out and the valley had to choose who got to stay warm. Turned out, a broken-down farmer with 2 daughters didn't make the cut. "The tribute accepts," Erin said loudly. The crowd's murmuring died. "I'll walk." "Erin, no." "Mira." Erin turned back to her sister, and this time she let the steel show in her voice. "I need you to listen to me. Are you listening?" Mira's face crumpled, but she nodded. "You're going to survive this winter. You're going to survive the next one. You're going to learn everything old Marin knows about healing, and you're going to keep people alive." Erin reached up with both chained hands and touched her sister's face. Her fingers were already numb from cold. "You're going to live long enough to see this valley thaw. Promise me." "I can't." "Promise me." Mira's breath hitched. "I promise." "Good girl." Erin leaned forward and pressed her forehead against her sister's. For just a moment, she closed her eyes and pretended they were back in their father's house, huddled under blankets by a fire that actually gave warmth, telling each other stories about the world beyond the mountains. "Now let me go." Mira's hands fell away. Elder Croft gestured sharply, and 2 men stepped forward, Davin and Torek, Village hunters who'd known Erin since she was small enough to ride on their shoulders during harvest festivals that didn't happen anymore. They wouldn't meet her eyes now. The climb is 3 miles, Croft said. The gates will open when you arrive. Walk through them. Don't look back. Don't run. The terms of the accord are clear. What accord? Erin asked. Who made it? When? Croft's mouth thinned. That knowledge is for the elders only. Of course it is. Erin smiled without humor. Wouldn't want the sacrifice to know what she's dying for. Someone in the crowd laughed nervously. Croft's face darkened. You should be honored, he said coldly. Your death will save everyone. Will it? Erin looked past him, scanning the faces in the torchlight. These people had been her neighbors, her community. Now they just looked tired and guilty and desperate. Did it save everyone when you sent my mother? Because from where I'm standing, things got worse after that. Colder, darker. But sure, let's keep feeding people to the mountain. Maybe the 23rd time's the charm. Enough! Croft raised his hand. You're wasting time. The moon rises in 4 hours. Erin was out of things to say anyway. Davin and Torek took positions on either side of her, and the 3 of them started walking. The crowd parted silently. Erin kept her head up, her back straight. She'd been practicing that too. When you walk to your death, you did it with dignity. That's what her mother had done. The village ended abruptly. A dozen stone houses with smoke trickling from chimneys, a meeting hall that used to host dances, a temple to gods that had stopped listening. Beyond that, the mountain path rose steeply into darkness. They walked in silence for the first mile. The wind screamed overhead, but down here in the trees, everything felt muffled. Dead. The forest had given up trying to grow years ago. Now it was just twisted black trunks and snow. Always snow. I'm sorry, Davin said suddenly. His voice was rough. Erin didn't answer. We don't have a choice, Torek added. If we don't give tribute, save it. Erin's breath plumed white in the darkness. You made a choice. You chose to live. I don't blame you for it, but don't pretend it was anything else. Neither man spoke again. The second mile was steeper. Erin's feet had gone from numb to burning to numb again. The silk dress they'd wrapped her in, white, like her mother's had been, was already soaked through with melted snow. The silver chains felt heavier with each step. She'd asked what they were made of. No one would tell her, just that they were necessary, that the things in the citadel required them. Things. Not people. Never people. By the 3rd mile, Erin's legs were shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion and cold, and the simple biological fact that human bodies weren't meant to climb mountains barefoot in sub-zero temperatures. Her toes had stopped bleeding, at least. That was something. Then she saw it. The trees opened into a clearing, and there, carved into the living rock of the mountain itself, stood the gates. They were massive, 40 feet tall at least, made of black stone so old it seemed to drink the moonlight rather than reflect it. No hinges that Erin could see, no handles, just smooth dark stone with symbols carved into every inch of the surface. The symbols moved. Erin blinked. No. The symbols didn't move. Her eyes were playing tricks. Had to be. Except, we go back now, Davin said. He'd stopped 20 paces from the gates. Torek stood beside him, face pale. The rest is up to you. That's it? Erin stared at them. You're just going to leave me here? The accord says we can't go closer. Torek's hand moved to the knife at his belt, a reflexive gesture. If we cross the threshold, what? You'll die? Join me? Erin laughed, and the sound came out bitter. How convenient. Davin looked genuinely pained. When the gates open, walk through. Don't stop, don't turn around, that's all we know. And then what? Neither man answered. Right. Erin turned back to the gates. Up close, they seemed even larger, so tall they disappeared into the darkness above. The symbols carved into the stone definitely moved now, or maybe it was just the wind making shadows dance. She didn't know anymore, didn't care. Go home. Tell Mira I love her. She started walking before they could respond. 20 steps to the gates. 15. 10. With each step, the cold intensified. Not natural cold, this was something else. Something that sank past skin and settled into the space behind her ribs. The chains on her wrists grew frigid enough to burn. 5 steps. The symbols on the gates blazed with sudden light, white light, cold as starfire. 3 steps. The ground beneath her feet thrummed with something that might have been a heartbeat. 1 step. Aaron stopped directly in front of the gates, close enough to touch. The stone radiated power like heat, except backwards. It didn't warm, it consumed. She could feel it pulling at something inside her, tugging at the core of whatever made her alive. "All right," she said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. "I'm here. I'm the tribute. So let's get this over with." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the gates began to open, not slowly, not with the grinding protest of ancient stone. They opened fast, swinging inward with a sound like thunder, and light poured out, not white now, but gold, brilliant and searing. Erin threw up her chained hands to shield her eyes, stumbling backward. When her vision cleared, she saw them. 3 figures stood in the gateway, backlit by the golden light, so their features were hidden in shadow. But their shapes, tall, impossibly tall, broad-shouldered and powerful. Not human. Couldn't be human. Humans didn't move like that, didn't carry themselves with that kind of coiled, predatory stillness. The one in the center stepped forward. "You're early," he said. His voice was deep, rough-edged, with an accent Aaron didn't recognize. Old. The accent sounded old, like words shaped by a tongue that learned to speak before modern language existed. "Sorry," Aaron managed. Her mouth was dry. "Should I come back later?" The figure tilted his head, and for just a moment the light shifted. Aaron caught a glimpse of his face. Sharp features, eyes that reflected gold like a wolf's, dark hair that fell past his shoulders. Beautiful. Terrifying. Inhuman. "No," he said. "You'll do." Then he reached for her. Erin's body moved on instinct. She jerked backward, raising her chained hands defensively. "Don't!" Too late. His hand closed around her wrist above the silver chains, carefully avoiding them, and pulled. Not roughly, almost gently, but with strength that told Erin if she fought, she'd lose. She stumbled forward, through the gateway, into the light. The moment she crossed the threshold, everything changed. The cold vanished. Not gradually, instantly, like stepping from winter into summer between one heartbeat and the next. Warmth flooded through her, so sudden and overwhelming that Erin's knees buckled. The figure holding her wrist caught her before she fell, his other hand gripping her shoulder. "Careful," he said. "The change is disorienting." Disorienting. That was one word for it. Erin's head spun. The ground beneath her feet felt solid, but everything else tilted sickeningly. She forced her eyes to focus, looking around. They stood in a courtyard. No, calling it a courtyard was like calling an ocean a puddle. The space was enormous, carved from the same black stone as the gates, but polished until it gleamed like dark glass. Pillars rose around the perimeter, each one wrapped with the same moving symbols she'd seen outside. And the light, the warm golden light, came from everywhere and nowhere, illuminating every corner without casting shadows. The 3 figures stood in front of her now, no longer backlit. Erin's brain struggled to process what she was seeing. They were men. Sort of. They had the shape of men. 2 arms, 2 legs, faces with eyes and mouths and all the correct features. But everything was slightly wrong. Too tall, too still. Their eyes reflected light like animals. Their movements, when they shifted, were too fluid, too controlled, like watching predators pretend to be human. The one who'd pulled her through, the leader, she assumed, watched her with those unsettling gold-reflecting eyes. He was perhaps the most human-looking of the 3, if only because his features were easier to track. Dark hair, strong jaw, a face that would have been handsome if it weren't for the wrongness underneath. He wore dark clothing that looked like it had been made in another century. Heavy fabric, complex fastenings, all black. To his left stood a man with red hair that fell in a wild mane around his shoulders. He was broader than the first, built like a fighter, with scars visible on his hands and neck. His eyes didn't glow gold, they glowed amber, like fire. He grinned at Erin, showing too many teeth. "She's warm," the red-haired one said. His voice was rougher than the first man's, almost a growl. "I can feel it from here." "Rhett," the dark-haired leader said quietly, "control yourself." The third man said nothing. He stood slightly apart from the others, watching Erin with cold calculation. His hair was pale, Not blonde, but colorless, like frost. His eyes were silver, completely silver, no pupil, no iris, just liquid mercury that tracked her every movement. He looked less human than the other two, or maybe just less interested in pretending. "Who are you?" Erin asked. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "What are you?" The leader released her wrist, stepping back. "I am Kalor. This is Rhett." He gestured to the red-haired man. "And Soren." The pale-haired one inclined his head fractionally. "As for what we are, that's complicated." "Try me." Kalor's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "We're your captors, for now." "I'm not captive," Erin said. "I'm a sacrifice. There's a difference." "Is there?" "One suggests I had a choice." This time Kalor did smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You think you didn't have a choice? You could have run, refused, let your sister take your place. That's not a choice. That's cruelty." "Welcome to the Citadel," Rhett said cheerfully. "We specialize in cruelty." Erin's hands were still shaking, from cold, from adrenaline, from the bone-deep terror she was trying very hard to ignore. She curled her fingers into fists, feeling the silver chain shift against her skin. "You're supposed to kill me," she said. "Might as well get it over with." "That's the deal, isn't it? Tribute comes, tribute dies, winter stays. So do it." All three men stared at her. Then Rhett started laughing. "Kill you?" he repeated. "Oh, that's rich. Did they tell you that? Did those cowards in the valley tell you we were going to rip you apart and feast on your bones?" "Something like that." "Humans," Rhett said, still laughing. "They really are the best liars." "We're not going to kill you," Kalor said. His voice was flat, matter-of-fact. "We've never killed any of the tributes. That's not what the Accord requires." Erin blinked. "Then why—" "Because we need you alive," Soren spoke for the first time. His voice was quiet, precise, absolutely without inflection. "Your warmth, your life force. Without it, we die." "I don't understand." "You will." Kalor turned, gesturing toward the darkness beyond the courtyard. "Come, we'll show you what your people sacrificed you to prevent." He started walking without checking if she followed. Rhett fell into step beside him. Soren waited, those silver eyes fixed on Erin with unnerving intensity. "Move," he said softly, "or we'll carry you." Erin looked back in the gates. They'd swung shut behind her. No way out. No way back. Ahead, Kalor and Rhett were disappearing into the shadows between the pillars. Behind, Soren watched with inhuman patience. She took a breath, tasted warmth and something else. Spice, incense, something old and strange, and started walking. The citadel swallowed her whole. They walked through corridors carved from living stone, each one wider than the village's main street and lined with columns that stretched up into darkness. The moving symbols covered everything: walls, floor, ceiling, casting patterns of light that shifted with each step. Erin's bare feet whispered against stone that felt warm now, almost alive. "How long have you been here?" she asked after they'd walked for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Her sense of time had broken somewhere between entering the gates and realizing she wasn't going to be immediately murdered. "A long time," Kalor said without turning around. "How long?" 300 years, give or take." Erin stumbled. Soren's hand shot out, steadying her. His fingers were cold through the thin silk of her dress. Not ice cold, but lacking the warmth that human skin should have. "That's impossible," she said. "You're talking to creatures who glow in the dark," Rhett pointed out. "Maybe adjust your definition of impossible." They turned a corner, and Erin stopped breathing. The corridor opened into a hall so vast it could have held Harrow's End 10 times over. The ceiling soared overhead, lost in shadow. The walls, Erin's brain couldn't process the walls. They were covered floor to ceiling with carvings. Not symbols this time. Scenes, battles, figures that looked almost human fighting things that definitely weren't. And scattered throughout, like stars in a dark sky, were stones. Gems. Massive ones. Each easily the size of Erin's head, set into the walls at regular intervals. They glowed softly, red, blue, green, gold, casting colored light across the carvings. "What is this place?" Erin whispered. "The heart," Kalor said. "The center of the citadel, the source of the curse." He kept walking, leading them toward the far end of the hall where a raised platform stood. As they got closer, Aaron saw what sat on the platform. A throne. Made of the same black stone as everything else, but this throne was different. Organic. It looked grown rather than carved, like something that had pushed itself out of the mountain's bones over centuries. And embedded in the throne's back, larger than all the others, was a stone that pulsed with white light. "Sit," Kalor said. Aaron stared at him. "What?" "The throne. Sit in it." "I'm not sitting in your creepy death chair," Rhett snorted. "It's not a death chair. Well, not exactly. More of a life chair, but only if you—" "Rhett," Kalor interrupted. "Shut up." He turned to Aaron, and for the first time she saw something other than cold control in his face. Exhaustion. Bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion. "Please," he said quietly. "Just sit. You need to see what we are. What's happening to us. Then you can decide." "Decide what? Whether you want to save us or let us die." The hall fell silent. Even the light from the stones seemed to dim, as if waiting for her answer. Aaron looked at the throne, at Kalor, at Rhett and Soren standing like statues behind him. 3 men who weren't men. 3 creatures who'd lived for centuries in this stone prison. 3 beings who needed her for something. "If I sit," she said slowly, "will you answer my questions? All of them?" "Yes." "And you won't hurt me?" Kalor's jaw tightened. "We physically cannot hurt you. That's part of the curse." "How convenient." "Convenient," Soren repeated flatly. "Yes. Being unable to defend ourselves while our bodies turn to stone is very convenient." Aaron's eyes snapped to him. "What?" But Kalor was already moving. He climbed the steps to the platform and turned, gesturing to the throne. "Sit, please, before we run out of time." There was something in his voice, desperation, maybe, or fear, that decided it for Aaron. She'd walked 3 miles barefoot through snow to die. Sitting in a chair seemed minor by comparison. She climbed the steps. The throne loomed above her, massive and ancient and somehow hungry. She hesitated, then lowered herself onto it. The moment her body made contact, everything changed. Power surged through her, not painful, but overwhelming, like lightning through water. The white stone embedded in the throne flared bright as a sun, and suddenly Aaron could feel everything. The citadel, the mountain, the valley beyond. She felt the cold wind screaming outside, felt the frozen earth locked in ice, felt the winter that had stolen her childhood and killed her father. And she felt them. Kalor, Rhett, Soren. Their presence lit up in her mind like stars, burning bright and fierce and wrong. Because they weren't burning, they were dying, slowly turning to something cold and lifeless and still. Turning to stone. Aaron gasped, and the vision shattered. She was back in her body, gripping the arms of the throne hard enough that the silver chains bit into her wrists. Kalor stood in front of her, waiting. "You see it now," he said. It wasn't a question. "You're cursed," Aaron managed. Her heart was beating too fast. "You're all cursed. Something's killing you." "Not killing," Soren corrected. "Transforming. There's a difference." "Show her," Kalor said. Soren didn't move for a moment. Then slowly he raised his left hand and pushed back the sleeve of his shirt. His forearm was stone. Not turned to stone, was stone. Smooth, gray, lifeless rock from wrist to elbow. As Aaron watched, horrified, Soren flexed his fingers. They moved, but wrong. Too stiff, grinding against each other with a sound like gravel. "It's spreading," Rhett said. His voice had lost its cheerfulness. "All of us. Different rates, different patterns, but the same end result." He pulled down the collar of his shirt, revealing a patch of stone spreading from his collarbone toward his throat. "In a month, maybe less, we'll be statues. Decorations for this tomb." "How?" Aaron's voice came out strangled. "How did this happen?" "We were guardians," Kalor said. "Warriors sworn to protect this citadel and the power it contains. 3 centuries ago, the kingdom we served fell. In its death throes, the king made a choice. His face was carved from ice. He cursed us, bound us here, made us immortal but not invulnerable. We would live forever, serving as jailers to a power too dangerous to be unleashed." "What power?" "The same power currently flooding through you." Kalor gestured to the throne. "The citadel is a prison for a god, or the fragment of one. The specifics are irrelevant. What matters is that the curse slowly turns us to stone. To prevent that, we need human warmth, human life force. That's what the Accord provides. Aaron's brain was trying to catch up. The tributes. Yes. One every generation. They live here, in the Citadel, and their presence slows the curse. Not enough to stop it, not enough to reverse it, but enough to buy time. Where are they? Aaron looked around the empty hall. Where are the other tributes? Silence. They died, Rhett said finally. All of them. Natural deaths for the most part. Old age, sickness, accidents. Humans are fragile. My mother, Aaron said. She came here 17 years ago. More silence. Then Kylor spoke, his voice carefully neutral. Yes, Elara. She lived here for 15 years. She was kind. What happened to her? She fell, Soren said. From the eastern tower, it was winter. The ice made the stones slippery. Aaron's hands clenched on the throne's arms. Did you kill her? No. Then why? Because she was dying anyway, Kylor interrupted harshly. The curse doesn't just affect us. The longer a tribute stays, the more it drains them, slowly, invisibly. But it's there. Elara felt it. She knew what was happening, so she chose the tower over waiting for the slow death. The words hit like fists. Aaron had imagined her mother's death 1,000 ways, torn apart by monsters, sacrificed in some bloody ritual, anything but the truth. That her mother had chosen to die, that living here had been worse than death. Your people know this, Soren said. The elders. They've known for generations. The tributes don't die because we kill them. They die because the Citadel consumes them, but it's slower than the curse that kills us. So the Accord continues. That's monstrous. Yes, Kylor agreed. It is, but it's the choice that was made. Your life for the valley's survival. Our continued existence for the prevention of eternal winter. I don't understand. How does keeping you alive stop winter? We are the seal, Soren said. Our presence, our life force, binds the power in the Citadel, keeps it contained. If we die, if we complete the transformation to stone, the seal breaks, the power escapes. And the valley doesn't just freeze. His silver eyes were merciless. It dies. Every living thing turns to ice in moments. The winter becomes absolute. Aaron sat very still, trying to process. So I'm not a sacrifice to keep winter going. I'm a sacrifice to prevent something worse, essentially. And if I refuse, if I leave? You can't leave, Rhett said. The gates only open from outside. From in here, they're sealed. You're bound to this place now. The silver chains. He nodded at her wrists. They're not just symbolic. They tie your life force to the Citadel, to us. You couldn't leave even if we let you try. Aaron looked down at the silver chains wrapped around her wrists. They'd felt cold outside, burning against her skin. Now they felt warm, alive. She could feel them pulsing in time with her heartbeat. So I'm trapped. Yes. And I'm going to die here, slowly, like my mother. Probably, Aaron laughed. The sound came out broken, edging toward hysteria. My village thinks you're monsters. They're wrong. You're not monsters. You're just prisoners. Same as me. We were monsters once, Kylor said quietly. Warriors who burned cities and killed without mercy. The curse was our punishment, but you're innocent. You don't deserve this. None of the tributes deserved it, Aaron shot back, but that didn't stop you from accepting them. No, Kylor agreed. It didn't. The admission hung in the air between them. Aaron wanted to scream, to rage, to demand answers that would make sense of the senseless situation she'd been thrown into. But what would be the point? She was here. Her life was forfeit. The only question now was how long she'd last before the Citadel ground her down to nothing. She stood abruptly. The power surging from the throne cut off the moment she broke contact, leaving her feeling hollow and cold. I need to sleep, she said. Or think, or both. Is there somewhere I can... We'll show you to your quarters, Kylor said. He sounded relieved, like he'd expected her to fight or cry or break down. Maybe previous tributes had. Maybe her mother had. This way. They left the hall in silence, walking through more corridors, climbing stairs that seemed to spiral upward forever. Eventually, they stopped in front of a heavy wooden door carved with more of those moving symbols. "This was Alara's room," Kaylor said. "We've maintained it. You'll find everything you need inside." Erin pushed the door open. The room beyond was larger than her entire house in Harrow's End. A massive bed dominated one wall, draped in furs and blankets. A fireplace took up another wall, currently burning with flames that gave off warmth but no smoke. Tapestries hung from the stone walls, depicting scenes of forests and fields and seasons that didn't exist anymore. "We'll bring food later," Rhett said, "and someone will explain the rules." "Rules?" "Where you can and can't go, what you can and can't touch, how to avoid the parts of the Citadel that are dangerous." "More dangerous than this?" Erin asked dryly. Rhett grinned, though it looked strained. "Sweetheart, you have no idea." They left her there, pulling the door shut. Erin heard the sound of locks engaging, multiple locks, heavy and final. She was well and truly trapped. For a long moment, she just stood in the center of the room, trying to make sense of anything that had happened in the last 6 hours. Then she walked to the bed, climbed under the furs, and did something she hadn't allowed herself to do since her father died. She cried. Hard. Ugly. The kind of crying that shook her whole body and left her throat raw. She cried for her mother, for her sister, for her own stolen life. She cried until exhaustion dragged her down into sleep. And in that sleep she dreamed of stone men turning to dust, and a valley drowning in ice, and gates that opened onto nothing but darkness. Erin woke to the sound of stone grinding against stone. Her eyes snapped open, heart hammering. The room was exactly as she'd left it, fireplace burning with those impossible smokeless flames, tapestries depicting dead seasons, massive bed that felt obscene in its comfort. But the sound continued, low and rhythmic, coming from somewhere beyond the walls. She threw off the furs and stood. Her feet hit warm stone. Still barefoot, still wearing the white silk dress that was now torn and stained from yesterday's climb. Yesterday. It felt like years ago that she'd walked out of Harrow's End. The grinding sound stopped abruptly, replaced by a muffled curse in a voice she recognized. Rhett. Erin crossed to the door and tried the handle. Locked, as expected. She pressed her ear against the wood, listening. Footsteps. Multiple sets. And voices, though too quiet to make out words. "I know you're awake," Rhett called from the other side. "I can hear your heartbeat." Erin jerked back from the door. "That's disturbing. You get used to it." The locks disengaged with a series of heavy clicks. The door swung open, revealing Rhett standing in the corridor with a tray of food in his hands. He looked worse than last night. The patch of stone on his collarbone had spread up toward his jaw, gray and lifeless against his skin. "Breakfast or lunch? Time's weird here." Erin didn't move. "Where are the others?" "Kaylor's in the east wing dealing with structural collapse. Soren's mapping the spread." Rhett gestured with the tray. "Are you going to let me in, or do I stand here until my arm turns to stone? Because that's happening either way, but it'd be nice to speed things along." Against her better judgment, Erin stepped aside. Rhett walked in and set the tray on a small table near the fireplace. Bread, cheese, something that might have been dried meat, a pitcher of water. Simple food, but more than Erin had seen in one place for months. "Eat," Rhett said. "You need your strength." "For what?" "For not dying." He dropped into a chair that groaned under his weight. "The Citadel drains you, slowly, but it's there. Food helps, sleep helps, staying warm helps, but eventually," he shrugged. "Well, you saw where your mother ended up." Erin's hands clenched. "Don't talk about her." "Why not? She was here for 15 years. Longest any tribute has lasted. We got to know her pretty well." Rhett's amber eyes tracked Erin's every movement. "You look like her. Same stubborn jaw, same way of standing like you're ready to fight the whole world." "Did she? Fight?" "At first, then she figured out it was pointless. The Citadel doesn't care if you fight or submit. It takes what it needs either way." Rhett leaned back and Erin heard that grinding sound again, stone against stone. His shoulder. "She spent her last year's painting. We still have some of her work in the gallery." Erin didn't want to hear this, didn't want to picture her mother existing here, making art while slowly dying. But her traitorous mouth asked anyway. "What did she paint?" "Mira." Rhett smiled without humor. Your sister, over and over. Different ages, different poses, like she was trying to watch her grow up from a distance. The words hit like a punch. Erin turned away, moving to the table. She forced herself to eat, not because she was hungry, but because Rhett was right. She needed strength. And if she was going to figure out how to survive this place, she couldn't do it on an empty stomach. Why are you here? She asked after swallowing a mouthful of bread that tasted like ash. Why not Kaylor? He seems like the one in charge. Kaylor doesn't do well with new tributes. Rhett's voice went flat. He gets attached, then they die. Then he spends the next few years pretending he doesn't care about anything. It's exhausting to watch. And you don't get attached? Oh, I get attached just fine. I just don't pretend otherwise. Rhett stretched, and more stone-grinding sounds accompanied the movement. Your mother and I used to play chess. Terrible player, Alara, but she never gave up. Even when she knew she'd lost, she'd keep trying to find a way out. Did she ever win? Once, near the end. Rhett's expression went distant. She sacrificed her queen to set up a checkmate I didn't see coming. I was so proud I wanted to... He stopped abruptly. Wanted to what? Doesn't matter, she was dead 3 days later. Rhett stood suddenly too fast. The chair scraped against stone. Finish eating, then I'll show you the rules. Rules, Erin repeated. You mentioned those last night. Yeah, and if you break them, you'll end up worse than stone. Rhett moved toward the door. 5 minutes. Then we walk. He left before Erin could respond. She ate mechanically, forcing down enough food to quiet her stomach, then splashed water on her face from a basin she found near the bed. No mirror. Probably for the best. She didn't want to see what 36 hours of cold and terror had done to her face. When she emerged from the room, Rhett was waiting. He'd changed clothes. Or maybe he'd been wearing the same thing all along and Erin just hadn't noticed. Dark pants, a shirt with sleeves rolled up to reveal more stone spreading up his forearms. He moved stiffly now, favoring his left side. How much time do you have? Erin asked as they started walking. Soren gives me 3 weeks. Kaylor's more optimistic, says a month. Rhett's voice was conversational, like they were discussing the weather. I'm betting on 2 weeks. I can feel it accelerating. And there's no way to stop it? Not that we've found in 3 centuries. Believe me, we've tried everything. Alchemy, blood magic, prayer, nothing works. The curse is tied to the Citadel's power, and that power is... He paused at an intersection of corridors. Well, you'll see. They walked through passages that seemed to shift when Erin wasn't looking directly at them. Not physically moving, she didn't think, but her sense of direction kept fracturing. They'd turn right 3 times and somehow end up in a completely different section of the Citadel. The symbols carved into every surface glowed brighter here, pulsing with rhythms that almost felt like language. Rule 1, Rhett said, never go below the 3rd level. The lower chambers are sealed, and they're sealed for good reason. Things live down there. Old things. Hungry things. What kind of things? The kind that make us look friendly. Rhett stopped in front of a staircase that descended into darkness so complete it seemed to absorb light. Kaylor went down once, about a century ago. Came back missing 2 fingers and wouldn't talk for a month. We don't go below the 3rd level. Erin filed that away. What else? Rule 2. Don't touch the stones embedded in the walls. The colored ones. They're tied directly to the Citadel's power. Touch one, and it'll burn through your mind like fire through paper. How do you know? Because the tribute before your mother tried it. We found him 3 days later. Still alive, technically. But everything that made him human was gone. Just a shell that breathed and blinked and nothing else. Rhett's voice went hard. We gave him mercy. Your mother held his hand when Kaylor... He stopped. Rule 2. Don't touch the stones. They kept walking. Corridors grew wider, the ceiling stretching higher. Erin noticed water damage on some of the walls, dark stains that spoke of leaks and neglect. The Citadel was massive, but it was also dying, just like its guardians. Rule 3, Rhett continued. The East Wing is unstable. Parts of it are collapsing. That's what Kaylor's dealing with now, trying to shore up walls that have been standing for 1,000 years but suddenly decided today was a good day to cave in. Stay out unless one of us is with you. Why is it collapsing? Because we're dying. The Citadel is tied to us. As we turn to stone, it fails. Entropy, Soren calls it, everything falling apart together. Rhett glanced at her. Your presence slows it down. Your warmth, your life force, but it's not enough. Nothing's ever been enough. They emerged into another massive hall, this one lined with statues. Dozens of them, all depicting warriors in various poses of combat. The detail was incredible. Every muscle, every strand of hair carved with precision that shouldn't be possible. Rule 4, Rhett said quietly. Don't look at them too long. Why? Erin's voice died as she realized what she was seeing. The statues weren't carved, they were transformed. Real people turned to stone mid-motion, preserved forever in their final moments. What happened to them? What's happening to us? This is the first wave of Guardians. 50 warriors cursed 3 centuries ago. We're the last 3. Rhett walked past the statues without looking at them. They fought it longer than we will. Took them decades to turn completely, but the curse is accelerating now. We don't have decades. We barely have weeks. Erin forced herself to keep moving, to not stare at the frozen faces trapped in eternal combat, but she felt their eyes following her anyway. Or maybe that was just her imagination. How many rules are there, she asked. Enough to keep you alive. Maybe. Rhett stopped at another intersection. Rule 5, if you hear singing, don't follow it. That's the power in the throne room. It calls sometimes, especially to new tributes. Your mother almost walked off the Eastern Tower twice before we figured out how to block it. Block it how? Silver. Rhett tapped the chain still wrapped around Erin's wrists. The same metal that binds you to the Citadel also protects you from the worst of its influence. Don't take them off. I don't think I can. I've tried. Erin had spent 20 minutes that morning trying to slip the chains over her hands. They'd tightened every time, burning against her skin until she stopped. Good. That means they're working. Rhett started walking again, leading her through more corridors, past more rooms filled with things Erin couldn't process. A library with books that moved on their shelves, an armory with weapons that hummed with barely contained power, a garden enclosed entirely in stone where plants grew without sunlight, their leaves black and silver. Rule 6, Rhett said as they climbed another set of stairs. Trust us. I know that sounds insane. We're monsters who've accepted tributes for centuries, but we're also the only thing standing between you and the full force of the Citadel's hunger. We know how to navigate this place, how to keep you breathing. So when we tell you to do something, do it. They reached the top of the stairs and emerged onto a balcony that overlooked the courtyard where Erin had entered. From this height, she could see the full scale of the Citadel. It wasn't a building, it was a city carved into the mountain, stretching in every direction, towers and walls and structures that defied geometry, and everywhere those symbols glowing with cold light. Why? Erin asked. Why keep the tributes alive at all? If we're just slowing the inevitable, if the curse is going to kill you anyway, why not let us go? Let the winter take the valley. Let everything end. Rhett was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. Because we're warriors. We don't give up, even when we should, even when it would be kinder. He turned to face her, and his amber eyes burned. And because once, a very long time ago, we swore an oath to protect people. That oath didn't come with an expiration date. But you're not protecting people. You're imprisoning them. Yeah, we are. Rhett's smile was bitter. Funny how noble intentions turn monstrous, given enough time. Before Erin could respond, a sound split the air. A deep, resonant crack, like thunder but wrong, originating from inside the mountain rather than the sky. The balcony shuddered beneath their feet. Dust sifted down from the ceiling. That's not good, Rhett said. Another crack. Louder. Erin grabbed the railing as the entire citadel seemed to shift, grinding against itself. The symbols on the walls flared bright, then dimmed, flickering like dying flames. What's happening? East wing. Rhett was already moving, pulling Erin away from the railing. It's not just collapsing, it's... The third crack cut him off. This one brought down part of the ceiling at the far end of the corridor. Stone crashed into stone, and through the dust cloud, Erin saw something that made her blood freeze. Darkness. Not shadow. Pure absence of light, spreading like infection through the fallen debris. And inside that darkness, something moved. Run, Rhett said. His voice had changed, dropping into a growl that didn't sound remotely human. Back to your room, now. What? Run! Aaron ran. She didn't know the way back. Didn't matter. Rhett was behind her, his stone-heavy footfalls shaking the floor, and he shoved her left at intersections, right at doorways, guiding her through the maze while behind them that darkness grew. Aaron caught glimpses over her shoulder, writhing shadows with shapes that hurt to look at, things with too many limbs and mouths that opened sideways. They burst into a familiar corridor. Aaron's room was ahead, door hanging open. She lunged for it. Rhett followed, slamming the door shut behind them and throwing locks that screamed as they engaged. He pressed his back against the wood, breathing hard. "What were those things?" Aaron demanded. Her heart was trying to beat out of her chest. Pieces of the god we're imprisoning. When the citadel weakens, they escape. Rhett's eyes had gone full amber now, glowing in the dimness. "They can't cross silver-warded thresholds. You're safe here." "And you?" "I'm fine. Mostly." Rhett slid down to sit with his back against the door. The stones spreading across his body made the movement awkward, joints grinding. "Though I think I just lost another year off my already impressive lifespan. This is insane." Aaron paced the room, adrenaline making her shake. "This whole place is falling apart. You're falling apart. And I'm supposed to just... what? Live here? Pretend this is normal?" "No one said it was normal. We said it was necessary." Rhett's head thumped back against the door. "Your presence strengthens the citadel, slows the collapse. Those things won't be able to break through as easily now that you're here. But they'll still break through. Eventually. Yeah. So what's the point?" "The point," Rhett said tiredly, "is that every day we hold gives your people in the valley one more day of life. Maybe that's not enough for you, but it's what we have." Aaron stopped pacing. She looked at Rhett, really looked at him. The stone covering nearly a quarter of his body now, the exhaustion carved into his face, the resignation in his voice. He was dying. They were all dying, and they were still fighting. "I want to see Kylor," she said. "Why?" "Because he's the one in charge. Because I want answers he hasn't given me yet. Because..." Aaron's hands clenched into fists. "Because I'm not going to just sit in this room and wait to die like my mother did." Rhett studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed, the sound rough but genuine. "Yeah, you're definitely Alara's daughter." He pushed himself to his feet with effort. "Fine. We'll go find Kylor, but when he tells you the same things I have, don't say I didn't warn you." "Where is he?" "East Wing, where the collapse started." Rhett opened the door cautiously, checking the corridor. Empty. The darkness had retreated, for now. "We'll have to move fast, and if I tell you to run again, you run. Understood?" "Understood." They left the safety of the room and plunged back into the citadel's depths. The East Wing was worse than Aaron imagined. Entire sections of corridor had collapsed, leaving gaping holes that dropped into darkness. The air tasted of stone dust and something else. Decay, corruption, wrongness. The symbols carved into the walls flickered weakly here, barely providing light. They found Kylor in what had once been a grand hall but was now mostly rubble. He stood in the center of the destruction, hands pressed against a crack in the wall that glowed with sickly green light. His whole body was rigid with concentration. "Little busy?" Kylor said without turning around. His voice was strained. "Unless the citadel's on fire, come back later." "The tribute wants to talk," Rhett said. "Then she can wait." "No," Aaron said. "I can't." Kylor's head turned slightly. In profile, his face was carved from exhaustion and pain. "This crack leads directly to the lower chambers. If I don't seal it, those things you saw earlier will pour through by the hundreds. So whatever you want to say, make it fast." Aaron stepped closer. Now she could see what Kylor was doing. His hands glowed with the same golden light that had poured from the gates when she'd arrived. He was pushing that light into the crack, forcing it closed through sheer will, and it was killing him. Stone crept up his neck with each passing second, gray and lifeless. "Stop," Aaron said. "Can't." "You're turning to stone." Aware of that, Kylor's teeth were clenched. "Got a better solution?" "Let me help." That got his attention. Kylor's eyes snapped to her, glowing gold and inhuman. "You can't. You don't have the training, don't have the power." "But I have warmth. Life force, that's what you need, right?" Aaron moved to stand beside him at the crack. Up close, the green light was worse, oily, writhing, alive with malice. So use it. Use me. Whatever you're doing, I'll help. You don't understand what you're offering. Then explain it to me. Kaler stared at her for a heartbeat. 2. Then he grabbed her hand, the one not pressed against the wall, and slammed it against the crack beside his own. Power erupted. It poured out of Aaron like blood from a wound, hot and vital and overwhelming. The green light recoiled from it, hissing. Kalor's golden power flared brighter, fed by whatever Aaron was giving him. Together they pushed into the crack, forcing it closed inch by agonizing inch. Aaron's vision went white. She felt Kylor beside her, not physically, but somehow deeper. Their life forces tangled together in ways that shouldn't be possible. She felt his pain, his desperation, the curse eating through him like acid, and beneath that, buried so deep she almost missed it, hope, fragile and dying, but there. The crack sealed with a sound like breaking glass. Aaron collapsed. Kalor caught her before she hit the ground, his arms solid despite the stone spreading across his shoulders. For a moment they just knelt there in the rubble, both breathing hard. That was stupid, Kalor said. His voice was hoarse. Did it work? Yes. Then it wasn't stupid. Aaron tried to stand and nearly fell. Her legs felt like water. Kalor hauled her up, steadying her. You shouldn't have done that. Connecting your life force directly to mine, you could have died. The drain. But I didn't die, and the crack is sealed. Aaron met his eyes. Even exhausted and half dead, they were striking, gold and ancient and utterly inhuman. I'm not going to sit in that room and wait for the Citadel to drain me dry. If I'm going to die here, I'm going to do it fighting. Something shifted in Kalor's expression. You sound like my mother. I know, Red already said. I was going to say you sound like us. Before the curse. Kalor released her carefully, making sure she could stand on her own. We were warriors, fighters. We didn't know how to give up. I don't either. Aaron's hands were shaking from the power drain, but she forced them still. So tell me how to fight this. Tell me what I can actually do besides being a battery for your curse. Kalor and Rhett exchanged a look. There might be something, Rhett said slowly, but it's dangerous, more dangerous than what you just did. I don't care. You will. Kalor's voice was grim. The throne in the heart, you sat in it. You felt the power. Yes, that power is what's killing us, but it's also what keeps the seal intact. The tributes who came before, they never tried to channel it directly. They just lived here, letting their presence passively slow the curse. But you, Kalor's jaw tightened, you could do more. If you learned to use the throne, to direct its power instead of just sitting there absorbing it. Would that save you? No. But it might buy us more time. Might strengthen the seal enough that the Citadel stops collapsing. That the creatures in the lower levels stay contained. Kalor's eyes bored into hers. And it might kill you in the process. The power doesn't distinguish between users and fuel. It burns through both. Aaron thought of Mira, of her promise to survive. Then she thought of her mother, painting pictures of a daughter she'd never see again, slowly dying in this stone prison. Finally, she thought of the valley, 200 desperate people clinging to life in eternal winter, sending girls to die so they could survive another generation. Teach me, she said. Kalor studied her face. Whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. All right, but we start small. Basic channeling exercises. You push yourself too hard too fast and the power will burn you out before you can do any good. When do we start? Tomorrow. You need rest. What you just did, channeling power into the seal, that would exhaust a trained guardian. For an untrained human, it should have killed you. Kalor's expression was almost impressed. The fact that you're still standing is remarkable. I'm not that fragile. Compared to us, everyone is fragile, Rhett said. He'd been watching the exchange with something that might have been hope on his scarred face. But maybe you're less fragile than most. They made their way back through the Citadel, moving carefully through corridors that felt more unstable than before. Or maybe that was just Aaron's imagination. Everything felt unstable now, the ground beneath her feet, the air in her lungs, her own sense of what was possible. Soren met them outside Aaron's room. He took one look at her and his silver eyes narrowed. You let her channel. he said flatly. She volunteered, Kaylor replied. That's irrelevant. She's untrained. She could have, but she didn't. Kaylor's voice held an edge of steel. And the seal in the East Wing is holding because of her. So unless you want to lecture me about risks while the Citadel collapses around us, save it. Soren's jaw clenched. Then he turned that mercury gaze on Aaron. If you're going to make a habit of this, you'll need training, real training, not Kaylor's soft approach. My approach keeps people alive, Kaylor said. Your approach lets them live longer before they die. There's a difference. Soren stepped closer to Aaron. He moved with a precision that the other two lacked. Stone covered his limbs, but he'd learned to compensate, to move through the restriction rather than against it. I can teach you control, discipline, how to channel power without burning yourself out. Why would you help me? Aaron asked. You barely tolerate me being here. I don't tolerate you. I tolerate what you represent. Another decade or two before we become statues. Soren's voice was cold as his eyes. But if you're going to be here, you might as well be useful. And usefulness requires training. Is this how you talk to my mother? Your mother and I didn't talk. She was terrified of me. Soren's expression didn't change. Smart woman. Despite everything, Aaron felt a spike of anger. She wasn't terrified. She was mourning. There's a difference. Semantics. No, it's not. Aaron stepped closer, close enough to see her reflection in Soren's metallic eyes. My mother loved me and my sister. She loved the life she had to leave behind. That's not fear, that's grief. And if you can't tell the difference, then you've been stone a lot longer than your body shows. For a moment, no one moved. Then, impossibly, Soren smiled. It was a terrible expression, more threat than humor. Perhaps you'll last longer than the others, he said. We'll begin lessons at dawn. He walked away without another word, his footsteps precise and measured. Rhett whistled low. Well, that was either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, Kaylor said. He looked at Aaron with something new in his expression. Not quite respect, but close. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. They left her at the door. Aaron went inside, locked it herself this time, and made it exactly 3 steps before her legs gave out. She caught herself on the bed, then just slid down to sit on the floor. Her hands still tingled from the power she'd channeled. She could feel it inside her, a foreign presence that hadn't been there this morning. Or maybe it had always been there, and using the throne had just awakened it. Aaron looked at the silver chains around her wrists. They pulsed faintly, in time with her heartbeat, binding her, protecting her, slowly killing her. I'm not going to die like you did, she whispered to her mother's ghost. I'm going to fight. And maybe I'll fail. Probably I'll fail. But I won't go quietly. The chains pulsed brighter, as if in answer. Outside her door, she heard stone grinding against stone as Kaylor and Rhett walked away. The sound of warriors slowly turning to statues. The sound of a curse that had outlived empires. And somewhere deeper in the Citadel, in chambers sealed and forgotten, things with too many mouths stirred in their darkness and waited for the day the seal would finally break. Aaron closed her eyes and tried to sleep, knowing that tomorrow she'd begin learning how to wield the same power that was killing everyone around her. The Citadel hummed with approval. Dawn came without sunrise. In the Citadel, day and night were concepts rather than realities, marked only by the slight shift in the symbol's glow from gold to silver and back again. Aaron woke to knocking that sounded like rocks being smashed together. Up, Soren's voice came through the door. Training starts now. Aaron dragged herself out of bed, every muscle screaming. Yesterday's channeling had left her feeling hollowed out, like someone had scooped away her insides and left only skin. She splashed water on her face, tied back her hair with a strip torn from the ruined silk dress, and opened the door. Soren stood in the corridor, and in the 12 hours since she'd last seen him, the stone had claimed his entire left arm. It hung at his side, gray and motionless, dead weight attached to a living body. He didn't acknowledge it. Follow, he said, and walked away. They descended through levels Aaron hadn't seen before, past the grand halls and into the Citadel's working spaces. Storage rooms filled with supplies that would outlast their guardians. Training yards with weapons still racked and waiting. A forge where the fires had gone cold centuries ago, but the anvil still rang when Soren struck it in passing, testing its resonance. Finally, They reached a circular chamber carved from black stone so smooth it reflected like dark water. The walls were bare except for a single symbol burned into the floor, a spiral that seemed to turn even when Aaron wasn't looking directly at it. "Sit," Soren said, pointing to the center of the spiral. Aaron sat. The stone was warm beneath her, pulsing with the same rhythm as her silver chains. "What you did yesterday was instinct, raw and undisciplined. If you try that again without training, you'll burn yourself out within a week." Soren circled her slowly, his stone arm dragging slightly. "Power needs structure, channels. Without them, it's just destruction." "Kaelor didn't burn out. Kaelor has 300 years of practice. You have none." Soren stopped in front of her. "Close your eyes." Aaron hesitated, then obeyed. Immediately, her other senses sharpened. She could hear Soren's breathing, slow, controlled, almost mechanical. Could feel the citadel humming around them, alive in ways that shouldn't be possible for stone and metal. "The power in the throne comes from the imprisoned god," Soren said. His voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "It's not meant for mortal use, but the curse that binds us also gives us the ability to channel it. And now, through the chains, you're connected to that same network." "I don't understand." "You don't need to. Not yet. First, you need to feel it. Find the connection. It's there, inside you, where the chains touch your life force." Aaron focused inward, past the pain in her muscles, past the exhaustion. There, a thread of something foreign, metallic and cold, running from the chains into her core. When she touched it mentally, power sparked. "Good," Soren said. "You found it faster than expected. Now pull on it, gently, like drawing water from a well." Aaron pulled. Power flooded into her and she gasped. It felt like lightning and ice and being burned alive and drowned simultaneously. Too much. Way too much. "Stop," Soren commanded. "Release it. Now." She let go and the power snapped back. The recoil threw her sideways. She caught herself with her hands, breathing hard. "That was gentle," she managed. "That was you panicking and grabbing instead of pulling. Try again. And this time, think of it as drawing a single thread from a tapestry, not ripping out the whole weave." They practiced for hours, or what felt like hours. Time moved strangely in the training chamber. Pull and release. Draw and let go. Each time, Aaron got slightly better at controlling the flow. Each time, it hurt a little less. But by the end, her head pounded and her vision kept blurring at the edges. "Enough," Soren finally said. "You're done for today." "I can keep going." "No, you can't." Soren's silver eyes were merciless. "Push any further and you'll damage something permanent. Come back tomorrow." Aaron wanted to argue, but when she tried to stand, her legs wouldn't hold her. Soren caught her with his functioning arm, hauled her upright. "You're stubborn," he said. "That's good. Stubbornness keeps you alive longer than talent, but stubbornness without wisdom just means you die doing something stupid." Speaking from experience, the corner of Soren's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Every day for 3 centuries. He walked her back to her room, his stone arm scraping against the corridor walls. At her door, he paused. "Your mother lasted 15 years, he said quietly. "Most tributes don't make it past 5. You want to know why?" Aaron waited. "Because they accept their fate. They sit in that room and wait for the citadel to drain them." Alara fought, every day, in small ways. She explored, learned, pushed back against the drain instead of surrendering to it. Soren's expression was unreadable. She was still dying, but she chose how she spent the time she had left. That matters. "Is that why you're training me? Because you respected her?" "I'm training you because Kaelor asked, and because having a functional tribute instead of a decorative one serves my interests." Soren turned to leave, then stopped. "But yes, I respected Alara. She deserved better than this place." He left before Aaron could respond. Inside her room, she found food waiting. Bread, fruit, cheese. She ate mechanically, forcing down fuel her body needed even though she couldn't taste it. Then she collapsed onto the bed and fell into sleep so deep it felt like drowning. She dreamed of her mother. Not as she'd been at the end, broken and ready to jump, but as she'd been when Aaron was small, strong, laughing, pulling Aaron and Mira into her lap and telling them stories about the world before winter. In the dream, her mother touched Aaron's face and whispered something urgent, but the words dissolved before Aaron could catch them. She woke to screaming, not human screaming, the other kind, the mountain exhaling fury. But this time it came from inside the citadel, echoing through stone until the walls themselves vibrated. Erin threw open her door. The corridor was empty, but she could hear running footsteps below, shouts and voices she recognized. Kaelor, Rhett, something was wrong. She ran toward the sounds, following corridors that twisted in ways they hadn't before. The citadel was changing, restructuring itself around whatever crisis was happening. Twice she hit dead ends that shouldn't exist. Finally, she found stairs leading down and took them 3 at a time. The screaming got louder. She burst into the courtyard where she'd first entered and stopped cold. The gates were open. Not just open, torn open, massive black stone ripped apart like paper. Through the gap, Erin could see the mountain path, the frozen forest beyond. And standing in the gateway, silhouetted against moonlight, were people. Villagers. From Harrow's End. She recognized Elder Croft at their head, flanked by Davin and Torek and a dozen others. They carried torches and weapons, axes, hunting bows, knives that gleamed silver in the moonlight. "Told you it was possible," Croft was saying to someone Erin couldn't see. "The gates can be forced if you know the old words. The accord was never absolute." "You brought them here," Kaelor's voice, coming from somewhere to Erin's left. "You violated the terms." "The terms are a lie," Croft spat. 300 years of sending our children to die so you can live. We're ending it." Erin stepped forward into the courtyard's light, every head turned toward her. "Erin?" Davin's voice was shocked. "You're alive." "Of course I'm alive," she said. "What did you think would happen?" "We thought," the elders said. Davin looked at Croft, confused. "You told us the tributes were killed, sacrificed to end winter. I told you what you needed to hear." Croft's face was carved from stone harder than anything in the citadel. "The truth is worse. They're kept alive, drained slowly to feed these monsters, but it ends tonight." "You can't be here," Kaelor said. He stood near the torn gates, and even from a distance Erin could see how bad he looked. Stone covered half his torso now, creeping toward his heart. "The accord?" "There is no accord. Not anymore." Croft raised his hand and the men with him lifted their weapons. "We came to end the curse. Kill the guardians, free the tribute. Let the valley freeze or thaw as nature wills. Either way, no more children die for your survival." "If we die, the seal breaks," Soren said. He'd appeared from the shadows, moving with lethal precision despite his stone arm. "The power we've been containing for 3 centuries, it escapes. Your valley doesn't freeze, it dies. Every living thing turns to ice in seconds. Is that what you want?" "You're lying. You've always lied." Croft's voice shook with rage. "My daughter was the first tribute, 20 years old, beautiful, kind. You took her, and we never saw her again. Now you expect me to believe you're protecting us?" "We didn't take her," Kaelor said quietly. "She was sent, by people like you who decided her life was worth less than your comfort." "Don't!" Croft's shout echoed off stone. "Don't you dare make us the villains. We're trying to survive, to save our children from your hunger." "By killing them yourselves?" Rhett had joined the others, forming a line between the villagers and the citadel's interior. "That's rich. At least when they die here, they get a few years first." "Enough talking," Croft gestured sharply. "Take them down. Silver through the heart, just like the old texts say." The villagers surged forward. What happened next barely registered as individual moments, just violence so fast and brutal that Erin's mind struggled to process it. Kaelor moved first, and Erin finally saw what 300 years of combat training looked like. He didn't fight like a human. He fought like something that had forgotten humans were supposed to have limits. One moment he was standing still, the next he'd crossed 20 feet and disarmed 3 men before they could swing their axes. He didn't kill them. Erin noticed that. Just broke their weapons, shattered their knees, left them writhing on the ground. Rhett was less careful. He grabbed a man who got too close and threw him into the courtyard wall, hard enough that the impact cracked stone. His movements were hampered by the stone consuming his body, but what remained functional was still more than enough to overwhelm untrained villagers. Soren didn't engage. He stood perfectly still, and when 2 men rushed him with silver knives, he simply shifted his weight. Both men missed, crashed into each other, and went down in a tangle. Soren stepped over them without comment, but there were too many villagers. For every one Kaelor disabled, Two more pressed forward. They weren't warriors, but they were desperate and angry, and they'd come prepared. Silver weapons flashed in the torchlight, finding gaps in the Guardians' defenses. Kalor took a knife across his ribs. He didn't even slow down, but blood, dark and wrong, poured from the wound. Rhett caught an arrow in his shoulder, roared, ripped it out, and kept fighting. Only Soren remained untouched, his movements precise and economical. "Stop!" Aaron screamed. "All of you, stop!" No one listened. She ran forward into the chaos, dodging fighting men and fallen bodies. A villager grabbed her arm, someone she didn't recognize, face twisted with desperation, and tried to drag her toward the gates. "We're rescuing you," he panted. "Come on!" "I don't need rescuing." Aaron twisted free, stumbled backward. "She's one of them now," someone else shouted. "The Citadel's corrupted her." "I'm not corrupted. I'm trying to stop you from killing everyone." Aaron looked around frantically. The courtyard was a nightmare of violence. The Guardians were winning, but they were being hurt in the process. And there, near the gates, Elder Croft had broken away from the main fight. He was climbing the steps toward the heart, toward the throne room, toward the source of the Citadel's power. Aaron ran after him. The corridors leading to the heart were empty, everyone drawn to the fighting in the courtyard. Croft moved fast for an old man, driven by rage and purpose. Aaron caught up to him at the entrance to the great hall. "Don't!" she gasped. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly." Croft didn't stop walking. "The throne. That's where the power comes from. Destroy it, break the curse, end this nightmare. If you destroy the throne, you destroy the seal. Everything they've been holding back. It escapes. Let it. Maybe the world deserves to end." Croft reached the throne, raised the axe he carried. "My daughter deserved better. All the tributes deserved better. This is for them." He swung the axe at the massive white stone embedded in the throne's back. Aaron didn't think. She grabbed the thread of power inside her, the one Soren had taught her to find, and pulled. Harder than she'd ever pulled before. Power flooded through her, burning through her veins like molten metal. She threw herself between Croft and the throne. The axe hit her instead. Not the blade. At the last second, Croft twisted, and the haft caught Aaron across the chest instead of cleaving through her. But the impact with an enchanted weapon channeling power she couldn't control, the explosion threw Croft backward across the hall, threw Aaron into the throne, and the power she'd been holding, the power she'd pulled without control or training, it had nowhere to go. So it poured into the throne, into the citadel, into everything. The white stone flared so bright it burned Aaron's eyes. The silver chains on her wrists grew searingly hot. And then, connection. Not like before, when she'd sat in the throne and felt the citadel dimly. This was total, complete. Aaron felt every stone in every wall, felt the cracks spreading through the east wing, felt the creatures in the lower chambers stirring, felt Kalor, Rhett, and Soren fighting in the courtyard, their life forces burning like candles almost blown out. She felt the curse. It was alive. Not sentient, but alive in the way cancer was alive. Hungry, consuming, spreading through the Guardians like infection. And she felt the god whose power fueled it, trapped and screaming in dimensions that hurt to perceive. But more than that, she felt the way everything connected. The curse to the citadel to the valley's eternal winter to the seal the Guardians maintained. It was all one system, engineered 3 centuries ago by a dying king who'd valued punishment over mercy. And Aaron realized something that made her blood freeze. The curse wasn't just killing the Guardians, it was the seal. As they died, as they turned to stone, their transformed bodies were supposed to become the final barrier, living prisons becoming dead monuments. The king had planned for the Guardians to fail eventually, had built their transformation into the architecture of the curse itself, which meant breaking the curse wouldn't free them. It would kill them and shatter the seal simultaneously. "No," Aaron whispered. The word echoed through the connection, through every stone in the citadel. "No, there has to be another way." And in the connection, in the vast network of power and stone and ancient magic, she felt something respond. The throne itself, the focal point of everything. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat, and information poured into Aaron's mind. Not words, pure understanding. There was another way. One option the king hadn't planned for, because it had never occurred to him that a tribute would choose it. The curse could be transferred. Not broken, not ended, but moved. From the three guardians to someone else, someone with enough life force to anchor it, someone already connected to the Citadel's power through the silver chains, someone like Aaron. She would have to take all of it, all 3 centuries of accumulated curse. It wouldn't kill her, not immediately, but it would change her, transform her, make her into something that wasn't quite human anymore, a living anchor for the seal, a guardian in her own right. And the 3 men currently dying in the courtyard would be free. The price was her humanity, her life as she knew it, any chance of ever leaving the Citadel or seeing Mira again. In the courtyard, someone screamed. Aaron felt through the connection. Rhett had gone down, Stone spreading too fast, his movements slowing. Kaelor was trying to protect him, taking hits meant for his fallen comrade. Soren fought alone, his precision finally failing as more of his body transformed. They were dying, and Croft was climbing to his feet, reaching for his axe again. Aaron looked at the throne, at the white stone pulsing with imprisoned power, at the chains on her wrists that bound her to this place. She thought of Mira, of the promise she'd made to survive. Then she thought of her mother, choosing the tower over slow death, choosing to end on her own terms. This was Aaron's tower, her choice. "I'm sorry, Mira," she whispered. Then she pressed both hands against the white stone and opened herself completely to the curse. Power crashed into her like an avalanche. It was pain. Pure, absolute, reality-breaking pain. The curse found every cell in her body and began rewriting it. Stone crept up her arms from the chains, cold and relentless. She felt her bones begin to change, to harden, to become something that could anchor immortality. She screamed, couldn't help it. The sound tore from her throat and echoed through the Citadel, through every corridor and chamber. In the courtyard, all fighting stopped. "What is she doing?" Croft's voice, distant and horrified. "She's taking it," Soren said. Aaron felt his shock through the connection. "She's taking the curse. All of it." "That's impossible," Kaelor said. "The transfer ritual, it takes weeks of preparation, days of meditation. She can't just—" "She's not following the ritual," Soren interrupted. "She's brute-forcing it, using raw power instead of precision." A pause. "She's going to burn herself out." "Then stop her." Rhett, his voice weak. "How?" Soren's question was genuine. "She's connected to the throne directly. We can't reach her there." Aaron barely heard them. The curse was inside her now, all of it. 3 centuries worth of transformation and death compressed into seconds. She felt herself changing, her skin hardening, her senses sharpening beyond human limits, her connection to the Citadel becoming absolute. The stone reached her shoulders, her chest, began creeping toward her heart. This was it. The point where she either survived or became a statue, where her humanity ended and something else began. She thought of her father freezing to death in the dark, her mother jumping from a tower, Mira standing in the village square and promising to live. "I'm going to fix this," Aaron gasped. Blood poured from her nose, her eyes, anywhere the transformation was forcing change. "I'm going to break the system, end the winter, give them all a better choice." "You're dying," Kaelor said. Suddenly he was there, in the throne room, kneeling beside her. His hand touched her face, and even through the pain she felt his shock at how cold her skin had become. "Let it go. Release the curse. We'll find another way." "There is no other way." Aaron's voice came out wrong, rougher, echoing like stone on stone. "You know that. You've known it for 300 years. I won't let you die for us." "Then it's good I'm not asking permission." Aaron smiled, tasted blood. "Besides, I'm not dying. I'm transforming. There's a difference." The stone reached her heart. For one terrible moment, everything stopped. Aaron felt the curse balance on a knife's edge. It could go 2 ways, complete the transformation and make her into a living seal, or overwhelm her completely and turn her into a monument. In that frozen moment, Aaron felt the imprisoned god's attention turn toward her. Not malevolent, just curious, ancient and vast and utterly inhuman. "You're brave," it said, in a voice that existed outside sound. "Or stupid. I haven't decided which. Can't it be both?" The god laughed. The sound made the Citadel shake. "I like you. You remind me of the king who imprisoned me. Same absolute certainty that you're right." Was he right? No, but neither am I. That's the problem with gods and kings. We're both terrible at admitting we don't have all the answers. The god's presence intensified. I can help you. Stabilize the transformation. Make sure you survive it. But you'll owe me. What do you want? Eventually? Freedom? But not yet. Not today. Today I just want to see what you do with the choice you've made. Humans are entertaining when they're desperate. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be. The god's attention felt like sunlight filtered through miles of water. Do you accept? Aaron thought for exactly 1 second. Yes. Excellent. The god's power flooded into her and the curse stabilized. The stone stopped spreading at her heart, held there in perfect balance, not retreating but not consuming her either. Her body finished transforming, settling into something new, something that was still Aaron, but also more, and less, and different in ways she couldn't name. The connection to the throne snapped back to normal intensity. Aaron collapsed forward, would have fallen if Kalor hadn't caught her. "Aaron," he said urgently, "talk to me. Are you—" "I'm here." Her voice was still wrong, still stone rough, but functional. "I'm alive." Mostly. She looked down at her hands. They were her hands. Same shape, same scars. But the skin had changed. Still flesh. Still warm. But there was a quality to it now, a density that hadn't been there before. And the silver chains had fused directly into her wrists, no longer separate metal but part of her biology. "What did you do?" Soren stood in the doorway staring. "I took your curse." Aaron stood slowly. Her body moved differently now, stronger, more controlled, like she was wearing armor made of her own flesh. "All of it. It's mine now." "That's impossible." Clearly not. Aaron looked at Kalor, at Rhett, who'd dragged himself into the room and was staring with open shock, at Soren, whose silver eyes had gone wide. "Check yourselves." "The curse. Is it gone?" Kalor raised his hand slowly. The stone that had covered half his torso. It was receding. Not fast, but visibly, flesh returning where rock had been. He made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "It's gone," he whispered. "It's actually gone." "Not gone," Aaron corrected. "Transferred. I'm the anchor now. I'm the seal." She looked around the throne room, felt the citadel respond to her attention like a living thing. "And I'm going to use that to fix what the king broke." "You can't," Soren said flatly. "The curse is tied to the seal. Change one, break the other." "Maybe. Or maybe I just need to be smarter about it than a vindictive king." Aaron walked toward him, and with each step she felt the citadel reshape slightly, accommodating her new presence. "The winter in the valley, it's maintained by the seal, right? The power bleeding out keeps the temperature suppressed." "Yes. So if I redirect that power, channel it differently, not breaking the seal, just adjusting it—" "You'll kill yourself trying," Kalor interrupted. "The kind of power manipulation you're talking about, it takes decades to learn." "Then I'd better start now." Aaron smiled. It felt strange on her new face. "Besides, I have motivation. My sister's down there. My people. They deserve better than endless winter." "Your people just tried to kill us," Rhett pointed out. He was standing now, stone fully retreated from his body, looking more alive than he had in centuries, multiple times, with silver weapons. "I know, and I'm going to deal with that too." Aaron turned toward the corridor leading back to the courtyard. "Come on, we have a mob to disperse." She walked out of the throne room with 3 unkillable warriors following her like an honor guard. In the courtyard, chaos had deteriorated into confusion. The villagers had stopped attacking once the guardians stopped falling, and now both groups stood at a wary distance, weapons lowered but ready. Elder Croft sat against a wall where Soren had left him, looking old and broken. Aaron stepped into the light. Every eye turned to her. She saw the moment they registered what had changed, the way she moved, the stone-rough quality to her presence. The silver chains fused into her wrists. Davin's mouth fell open. Torek took a step backward. "Aaron?" Davin said uncertainly. What happened to you?" "I made a choice." Aaron's voice carried across the courtyard without effort. "The curse that was killing the guardians? I took it. All of it. It's mine now." "Why?" Croft's voice was hoarse. "Why would you do that for them?" "Not for them. For everyone." Erin walked forward until she stood in the center of the courtyard, exactly where she'd first entered days ago. The winter in the valley, it exists because of the seal these men maintained. That seal is mine now, which means the winter is mine to control. Silence. Then Torek laughed, the sound bitter. You expect us to believe you can end winter, just like that? I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to watch. Erin closed her eyes, reached for the connection to the citadel. She could feel it all now, the power flowing through the mountain, the seal binding it, the way that power bled into the valley and froze everything it touched. She grabbed that flow and twisted. The citadel screamed, not with sound, with light. Every symbol carved into every wall blazed white hot. The ground shook. And in the valley below, in Harrow's End and the frozen forests and the ice-locked rivers, the winter cracked. Not everywhere, not all at once, but in a line spreading south from the mountain, the ice began to melt. Snow turned to slush, frozen ground thawed. Trees that had been dead for 17 years suddenly budged with impossible instant green. The villagers in the courtyard stared in shock. Then someone started crying. Someone else fell to their knees. Davin made a sound like he'd been punched. You did it, he whispered. You actually, how? Practice. Erin opened her eyes. Her whole body hurt from the manipulation, but it was a good hurt, proof she was still alive. And I'm going to keep doing it, slowly, carefully, until the whole valley thaws. Why slowly? Torek demanded. Because if I do it too fast, I'll break the seal and kill everyone within 100 miles. Erin fixed him with a look that made the hunter flinch. This power, it's not mine to play with, it's mine to control. There's a difference. And us? Croft had found his feet, was standing now. What happens to the village? That's up to you. Erin looked at each villager in turn. You can go home. Tell everyone what happened. Help them understand that the old system is over. No more tributes, no more sacrifices. Just people living their lives while I fix what was broken. You're staying here. Croft's voice was flat. Yes. Alone. With them. They're not dangerous anymore. The curse is gone. They're just... Erin glanced at Kalor at the others. They're just warriors who've been fighting for 3 centuries. Let them rest. And you? Croft asked. What are you now? Erin looked down at her hands, at the chains fused into her wrists, at the stone quality to her skin that would never fully fade. I'm the guardian, the seal, the thing that stands between the valley and absolute winter. She smiled, sharp and cold. I'm what I chose to become. Croft stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once, turned, and started walking toward the torn gates. The other villagers followed, casting backward glances at Erin that mixed awe with fear. Davin stopped beside her. Your sister, he said quietly. Mira, what should I tell her? Erin's chest tightened. Tell her I love her. Tell her I kept my promise to survive. Just not the way either of us expected. She'll want to see you. I know, and maybe someday, when I have better control, when the seal is stable, maybe then. Erin's voice cracked slightly. But not yet. Not while I'm still learning what I've become. Davin nodded. Then impulsively he reached out and gripped her shoulder. His hand jerked back immediately, and Erin saw his shock at how cold and hard her skin felt. But he'd tried. That mattered. You're braver than anyone I've ever met, he said. Then he followed the others through the gates. Erin stood in the empty courtyard, watching them disappear into the pre-dawn darkness. Behind her, she felt Kalor, Rhett, and Soren waiting. Not sure what to say. Not sure what came next. So, Rhett finally said, this is new. Yeah. Erin turned to face them. Any of you have experience being freed from 3-century curses? Because I could use some advice on what happens now. Absolutely no idea, Rhett admitted. We expected to die. He gestured vaguely at himself, at his restored body. This wasn't in the plan. Plans change. Erin looked up at the citadel looming around them. Her citadel now. Her responsibility. I need to learn control. Need to finish thawing the valley without breaking everything. Need to figure out how to exist as whatever I've become. She looked at the 3 men. and I'm going to need help, if you're willing. You took our curse, Kalor said quietly. Gave us back our lives at the cost of your own humanity. Why would we refuse to help? Because you're free now. You don't owe me anything. That's where you're wrong. Kalor stepped forward, and Aaron saw something new in his expression. Not quite gratitude, something fiercer. We've been prisoners for 300 years. You broke our chains. We owe you everything. Same, Rhett added. Besides, you're interesting, and I haven't been interested in anything for decades. I'm staying just to see what you do next. Soren said nothing, just nodded once, sharp and final. Aaron felt something loosen in her chest. She wasn't alone. Whatever came next, learning to control power that could destroy the valley, managing a seal that required constant attention, existing as something not quite human anymore. She wouldn't face it alone. All right then, she said. First order of business, we need to stabilize the citadel. The east wing is still collapsing. Second, I need more training, real training, not just crisis management. Third, a sound cut her off. Not the grinding of stone this time, something else. A crack like thunder, but wrong, coming from deep in the citadel's heart. All four of them turned toward the throne room. That shouldn't be happening, Soren said. His voice was very calm, too calm. The seal is stable. You stabilized it. I know I did. Aaron reached for the connection to the citadel, felt along the threads of power. Everything seemed fine. The seal was intact. The curse was contained. So why, another crack, closer, and with it, a sound that might have been laughter. Oh, the god's voice said, echoing through dimensions that hurt to perceive. I should probably mention, that thing I said about wanting to see what you do with your choice, I may have been slightly misleading. Aaron's blood went cold. What did you do? Nothing permanent, just accelerated the timeline a bit. The seal was always going to fail eventually. I just moved eventually up to very soon. The god sounded almost apologetic. You're interesting, like I said, and I want to see how you handle impossible odds. Call it a test. You promised to help me survive the transformation, and I did. You're alive, aren't you? I never promised anything beyond that. The laughter came again. Good luck, little guardian. You're going to need it. The presence vanished. The cracks spread. Not slowly, fast, racing through the throne room and beyond. Aaron felt through the connection as the seal began to splinter, as the power she'd just stabilized started to fracture. No, she whispered. No, no, no. What's happening? Kalor demanded. The god, the one imprisoned here. It lied. The seal. It's failing now. And if it breaks, the valley dies, Soren finished. His face was carved from ice. How long do we have? Aaron reached deeper into the connection, felt the spreading cracks, calculated the rate of decay. Her new mind worked faster than her old one, processing information at speeds that would have been impossible before the transformation. Hours, she said. Maybe less. If I can't find a way to stabilize it, the seal shatters. The power escapes. Absolute winter spreads across the whole valley in seconds. Can you stop it? Rhett asked. Aaron looked at him, at Kalor, at Soren. Three men who'd spent centuries fighting impossible odds. Then she looked at the citadel around them, at the power she now controlled, at the seal she'd become responsible for. I don't know, she admitted, but I'm going to try. The citadel shook again. Somewhere in the lower chambers, the imprisoned god laughed, and the real fight began. Aaron ran. Not away from the throne room, toward it. Her feet pounded against stone that shuddered with each crack spreading through the seal, and behind her she heard Kalor shouting something she didn't stop to process. The connection to the citadel screamed in her mind, showing her exactly how bad things were. The seal wasn't just failing, it was collapsing in on itself, like a dam with cracks spreading from a central point. And that point was the throne. The white stone embedded in its back pulsed erratically now, flickering between blinding brightness and near darkness. She burst into the throne room and stopped. The air was wrong, thick and cold and tasting of metal and old blood. The symbols carved into every surface had gone dark except for jagged lines of sickly green light that pulsed in time with the cracks spreading through the floor. And hovering above the throne, barely visible, was something that made Erin's new senses scream, a tear in reality. Small, no bigger than her fist, but growing. Through it, she could see nothing. Not darkness, not void, just nothing. The absence of existence itself. That's where it lives, Soren said from behind her. He'd followed, along with Kalor and Rhett, the god, or what's left of it. 300 years in that prison has reduced it to something barely conscious, but it's still powerful enough to destroy everything if it escapes. How do I stop it? Erin's voice came out steadier than she felt. You can't. Not alone. Kalor moved to stand beside her, and Erin saw he'd armed himself, a sword that looked older than the citadel itself, the blade etched with more of those moving symbols. The seal is tied to the throne. To stabilize it, you need to channel power directly into the white stone, but the amount of power required, it'll burn you out in seconds. Then we don't have seconds to waste. Erin started toward the throne. Wait! Rhett grabbed her arm, not roughly, but firm enough to stop her. Think for a second. You just took on a 3-century curse. Your body's still adapting. If you push too hard now, you won't just burn out, you'll shatter. Stone and flesh and everything that makes you, just gone. And if I don't push, everyone in the valley dies. Erin met his eyes. Not a hard choice. It is when you're the one making it. Rhett's amber eyes were fierce. Your sister, your people, they're counting on you to survive this. Throwing your life away in the first crisis doesn't help anyone. Then what do you suggest? The tear above the throne pulsed, growing larger. Through it, Erin heard something that might have been wind or might have been screaming. Because I'm open to better ideas. We channel with you, Kalor said. The 4 of us together. You've got the connection to the seal. We've got 3 centuries of experience manipulating the Citadel's power. Combine them. You're free of the curse now. I'm not dragging you back into this. You're not dragging us anywhere, Kalor's voice went hard. We're choosing, same as you did. Now stop arguing and tell us what to do. Erin looked at the 3 of them, at faces that had spent centuries trapped in dying bodies, now restored and determined. She felt the seal fracturing faster with each passing second. No time for debate. Fine. But if this kills any of you, I'm going to be really annoyed. She turned to the throne. Soren, I need you mapping the cracks. Find me the weak points, the places where the seal's failing fastest. Rhett, you're going to help me hold the main flow steady while we work. And Kalor, she glanced at him. You're the anchor. If I start burning out, you pull me back. Force me to stop if you have to. How am I supposed to? You'll know. Erin climbed the steps to the throne, felt the power radiating from it like heat from a forge. Trust me, you'll know. She sat in the throne and the connection slammed into her with enough force to stop her breath. It was worse than before. So much worse. The seal wasn't just cracked, it was hemorrhaging power, bleeding out into dimensions that human minds weren't meant to perceive. The god trapped in that nothing space pushed against its prison with casual, terrible strength. It wasn't even trying hard, just testing the boundaries, curious about how much pressure the weakened seal could take before it shattered completely. I've got 17 major fracture points, Soren said. His voice seemed to come from very far away. 12 minor. The worst is directly beneath the throne, spreading up through the foundation. Of course it is, Erin muttered. Rhett, I'm going to start pulling power. When I do, you need to help me distribute it evenly across all those fracture points. Can you do that? Never tried. But I've done stupider things. Rhett moved to stand at her left side, placed his hand on the throne's arm. Ready when you are. Erin took a breath she didn't need. Her transformed body didn't require breathing the way it used to, but old habits were hard to break, and reached for the power. It came like a flood. She'd thought channeling yesterday had been intense. That had been a trickle compared to this. Power poured through her, more than any human body should be able to contain. It burned through her veins, her bones, her newly transformed flesh. She felt herself starting to crack, stone and skin fracturing under the pressure. Then Rhett was there in the connection, his presence solid and unyielding. He grabbed the power flow and split it, diverting some of the pressure away from Erin. Not taking it himself, he couldn't, not anymore, not without the curse to give him that capacity. But he could shape it, guide it, centuries of experience turning the flood into streams. Fracture point 1, Soren called out. North wall, 3rd level. Aaron directed power there, felt it pour into the crack, filling it, forcing the break to seal. The stone resisted, the god's influence making the gap want to stay open. She pushed harder. The crack sealed. 2 and 3. East wing, basement level. More power, more resistance, more cracks slowly, agonizingly closing. Erin's vision started to blur at the edges. Blood ran from her nose again, hot and copper tasting. Her hands gripped the throne's arms hard enough that stone cracked beneath her fingers. "You're at 70% capacity," Kaylor said. He'd moved to stand directly in front of her, and his presence in the connection felt different from Rhett's, cooler, more controlled, monitoring her limits. "Ease back." "Can't." "Still have—" Aaron checked the connection. 14 fractures left. "Then we do this differently." "Soren, which fractures are actively growing?" 6 of them. The rest are stable for now. "Focus on those 6. Ignore the stable ones until we've stopped the spread." Kaylor's hand landed on Erin's shoulder, grounding her. "You don't have to fix everything at once." "The god! If we don't seal everything, it can escape through the gaps." "The god has been imprisoned for 3 centuries. It can wait another hour while we make sure you don't explode." Kaylor's voice was gentle but immovable. 6 fractures. That's all. Do it." Aaron wanted to argue, wanted to push through, fix everything immediately, prove she could handle this. But her body was already screaming, and Kaylor was right. She couldn't help anyone if she shattered herself in the first 10 minutes. She redirected the power flow, focusing on the 6 actively growing cracks. Soren called them out one by one. Aaron poured power into each, feeling them resist, feeling the god push back with lazy curiosity. But slowly, painfully, they sealed. The 6th crack closed, and Aaron sagged in the throne. Her whole body felt like it had been beaten with hammers. The stone quality to her skin had spread further during the channeling, creeping up her neck. She could feel it inside too, her bones hardening, her organs transforming into something that could withstand the power she now carried. "Break," Kaylor ordered. 5 minutes. Drink water. Breathe. "Don't need to breathe anymore, not really." "Then fake it. Give your body time to adapt." He pressed a water skin into her hands. "Drink." Aaron drank. The water tasted like stone and metal, but it helped. Her vision cleared slightly. The pain in her chest eased from unbearable to merely agonizing. 8 fractures left, Soren reported. He stood near the throne, eyes closed, completely focused on mapping the seal's damage. 7 stable, 1 growing, but slowly. "We can handle that," Rhett said. He looked exhausted, his restored body not quite used to the kind of strain they'd just put it through. "Give her another minute, then we go again." "No." Erin pushed herself upright. "We go now. That growing fracture, where is it?" "The lower chambers, 2nd level, near the sealed doors." The doors that led to the things that made even Kaylor scared. "Perfect. If that fracture reaches those doors, what happens?" Erin asked, though she already knew the answer. "The seals on the doors fail. The things down there get out." Soren opened his eyes, and they'd gone completely silver again, reflecting the sickly light from the cracks. "We all die. Probably screaming." "Then we definitely don't wait." Erin stood, swayed, caught herself on the throne. "How do I reach a fracture in the lower chambers from here?" "You don't. You have to go down there." Kaylor's face was grim. "But I'm not letting you go alone." "I need you here. You're the anchor, remember?" "Then Rhett and I both go. Soren stays here to monitor the other fractures." Kaylor was already moving, not waiting for agreement. "We seal the growing crack, come back, finish the rest. Simple." "Nothing about this is simple," Aaron muttered, but she followed him toward the corridor. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else, heavy and unresponsive. She stumbled. Rhett caught her elbow, steadying her. "You good?" he asked quietly. "Define good." "Still conscious, still mostly solid, not actively dying." "Then yeah, I'm good." Aaron forced her body to cooperate, to move the way it was supposed to. "Let's go kill some reality fractures." They descended into the Citadel's depths. The stairs seemed to go on forever, spiraling down past levels Aaron hadn't seen before. The air grew colder despite the warmth that radiated from her transformed body. The symbols on the walls flickered weakly here, barely providing light. "We don't come down here much," Kaylor said. His voice echoed strangely in the narrow passage. Even before the curse got bad. There are things in these chambers that predate the citadel, things the king imprisoned along with the god. What kind of things? The kind that don't have names, at least not names humans can speak without going insane. Kaylor's hand rested on his sword hilt. When we reach the second level, stay between Rhett and me. Don't touch anything. Don't look directly at anything that moves. And if something speaks to you, don't answer. You're really selling this trip, Aaron said. Just want you to know what we're walking into. They reached the second level, and Aaron understood why Kaylor had been so serious. The chamber beyond the stairs was vast and wrong. The geometry didn't make sense. Walls met at angles that shouldn't exist, the ceiling seemed to be both above and below them simultaneously, and the floor rippled like water despite being solid stone. And scattered throughout the space were doors, dozens of them, each one different, each one sealed with chains that glowed with the same symbols that covered the rest of the citadel, but brighter, more aggressive. And from behind those doors came sounds, scratching, whispering, things that might have been laughter or screaming or neither. The fracture is there. Rhett pointed to the far end of the chamber, where a crack split the floor from wall to wall. Green light pulsed from it, and as Aaron watched, it widened by another inch. And it's heading straight for that door. The door in question was larger than the others, bound with chains thicker than Aaron's arm. The wood, if it was wood, was black and seemed to absorb light, and from behind it came a sound like breathing, deep, rhythmic, patient. "What's in there?" Aaron asked. "We don't know. We've never opened it. Never wanted to." Kaylor started forward, moving carefully around the other doors. But when the king imprisoned the god, he also imprisoned its servants, or pieces of it. We're not entirely sure which. That door, it's the biggest seal, the strongest, which means whatever's inside is the worst. And if the fracture breaks the seal, then we find out what's worse than an imprisoned god. They reached the crack. Up close, it was even worse than Aaron had feared. The green light pulsed with malevolent intelligence, and when she touched the connection to the seal, she felt the god's attention focus on this spot. "It's doing this deliberately," she said. "The god. It's pushing power specifically here, trying to break that door open." "Why?" Rhett asked. "What does it gain?" "Chaos. Destruction. Maybe it thinks whatever's inside will help it escape." Aaron knelt beside the crack, placed her hands on either side. "Or maybe it just wants to watch everything burn. Gods are petty like that." She reached for the power, but before she could pull, something cold wrapped around her ankle. Aaron looked down. A hand had emerged from the crack, gray, withered, with too many fingers. It gripped her leg with desperate strength, and where it touched, frost spread across her skin. "Don't move," Kaylor said. His sword was out, gleaming in the sickly light. "Don't pull away. That's what it wants. For you to panic, to disrupt your connection to the seal. It's freezing my leg." "I know. Rhett, get ready to cut it off." "The hand or her leg?" "The hand, idiot." Rhett moved into position, drawing a knife that hummed with barely contained power. But before he could strike, more hands emerged from the crack. 5, 10, 20. All reaching for Aaron, all radiating that terrible cold. "New plan," Aaron said. Her voice stayed level through sheer force of will. "I'm going to seal this crack while they're still attached. Might hurt." "Might?" Kaylor's laugh was slightly unhinged. "It's going to hurt like being boiled alive while someone stabs you. But do it anyway." Aaron pulled power, hard. Harder than she'd pulled in the throne room, pulling with desperation and fear, an absolute refusal to let these things drag her into whatever hell existed on the other side of that crack. The power flooded into the fracture, and the hands hissed. They didn't let go. They gripped tighter, trying to pull her down with them. But Aaron was stronger now. The transformation had given her strength her human body never had. She grabbed two of the hands with her own and pulled back. The things on the other end of those hands screamed. It wasn't a sound. It was wrongness made audible, a noise that existed in frequencies human ears weren't meant to perceive. Blood ran from Aaron's ears, from her eyes, from her mouth. But she didn't let go. She pulled harder, forcing the hands back into the crack while simultaneously pouring power into the fracture. Stone met flesh. Power met wrongness. And slowly, agonizingly, the crack began to close. The hands writhed, fought, tried to maintain their grip on reality. But Erin was the seal now. She was the barrier between this world and the dimensions where such things lived, and she refused to let them through. The last hand slipped back into the crack just as it sealed completely. The green light flickered once, then died. The floor was solid again, smooth stone showing no sign that anything had ever been wrong. Erin collapsed forward onto her hands, breathing hard even though she didn't need to breathe. The cold where the hands had gripped her leg was spreading, turning her flesh gray and lifeless. She watched with detached horror as her calf started to match the stone quality spreading through the rest of her body. Erin. Kaylor knelt beside her, grabbed her shoulders. Look at me. Focus. She looked up. His face was pale and his eyes, those strange gold eyes, held genuine fear. The cold, he said. It's not just physical. It's draining your life force, the same way the Citadel drained the tributes. If we don't stop it, I know. Erin could feel it, the cold spreading up her leg, reaching for her core. Once it hit her heart, she'd be gone. Not dead exactly, but not alive either. Just another statue for the Citadel's collection. How do I fight it? You're the seal. The Citadel responds to you now. Tell it to burn the cold out. Kaylor's hands tightened on her shoulders. You control this place. Act like it. Erin reached for the connection to the Citadel, found it still there despite the pain and cold. She grabbed it with mental hands that felt more real than her physical ones and demanded. Heat, fire, warmth to burn away the infection trying to consume her. The Citadel responded. Power flooded through her, but this time it didn't hurt. It was warm, almost hot, like standing in summer sunlight after years of winter. The cold in her leg hissed, recoiled, tried to maintain its grip. Erin burned it out ruthlessly, cell by cell, driving the infection back. The gray color faded from her calf. Feeling returned in a rush of pins and needles. She gasped, nearly fell, and Kaylor caught her. I've got you, he said quietly. You're okay. You're fine. I'm really not fine. Erin's laugh came out shaky. But I'm alive. That's something. That's everything. Kaylor helped her stand. Can you walk? She tested her leg. It held. Yeah, let's get out of here before something else tries to grab me. They made their way back to the stairs, moving faster now, none of them wanting to spend another second in that wrong-angled chamber. The doors and their chains watched them leave, and Erin could swear she heard disappointment in the breathing from behind the largest door. Back in the throne room, Soren took one look at Erin and nodded. You survived. Good. The other 7 fractures are holding, but barely. We need to finish this. How's my capacity? Erin asked as she climbed back into the throne. Her transformed body was adapting faster now, getting used to the strain. The stone spreading through her had stabilized, no longer growing but not retreating either. About 50%, better than expected after what you just did. Soren's silver eyes scanned her critically. But you'll need everything you have left for the remaining fractures. They're stable now, but sealing them permanently will take more power than the others. Why? Because these 7 are the original cracks, the ones that formed when the curse was first cast. Everything else, the spreading damage, the new fractures, those were consequences of the original 7 failing. Soren's expression was grim. Seal these, and you stabilize the entire seal, but they're reinforced by 3 centuries of the god's influence. They won't close easily. Nothing about this has been easy. Erin settled into the throne, felt its power hum against her skin. Let's finish it. They worked for hours, or maybe minutes. Time stopped meaning much when you were channeling power that existed outside normal dimensions. Soren called out each fracture. Erin poured power into them, feeling the god push back with increasing irritation. Rhett helped distribute the flow, keeping Erin from burning out, and Kaylor monitored her capacity, forcing her to take breaks when her body started fracturing under the strain. 6 fractures sealed. 1 remained. The last one's in the throne itself, Soren said. His voice was rough from hours of concentration. Running through the white stone. It's the original flaw, the first crack in the seal. If we can close it, everything else stabilizes. If? Erin asked. It's been there for 3 centuries. The god's influence is strongest in this crack. It might not want to close. Soren finally opened his eyes, and they were completely silver now, reflecting the power still pulsing through the chamber. And if you push too hard, you might shatter the stone entirely, which would be bad. Define bad. The god escapes. The seal breaks. Everyone dies. Very bad. Got it? No pressure. Erin placed both hands on the throne's arms, felt the white stone pulsing behind her head. Any advice on how to do this without exploding? Don't explode, Rhett offered helpfully. Thanks? Super useful. He's not wrong, though. Kaelor moved to stand in front of her again, hands on her shoulders. The trick isn't force, it's finesse. You need to ease the crack closed, not hammer it. Think of it like closing a wound, Erin finished. She understood. Her transformed mind processed the analogy instantly. Not sewing it shut, helping it heal. Exactly. Erin took a breath, centered herself, and reached for the crack in the white stone. It resisted immediately. The god's power saturated this flaw. 3 centuries of pressure and malice concentrated in one place. It didn't want to heal. It wanted to break, to spread, to finally shatter after all these years of patient waiting. But Erin was patient too. She'd learned patience in a valley locked in winter, learned to endure through cold that should have killed her. She could outlast one petty god. She pressed power into the crack, gently, just a trickle, testing the boundaries. The god pushed back. She pushed again, slightly harder, back and forth, a conversation in force and resistance. Slowly, she felt the crack begin to close. Not quickly, not dramatically, but steadily, inevitably, healing from the outside in. The god's presence in her mind shifted from irritation to anger. It pushed harder, trying to widen the crack before she could seal it. Erin pushed back, matching its strength with her own. They were balanced perfectly, neither giving ground. You're at 90% capacity, Kaelor warned. Whatever you're going to do it soon. Working on it. Erin gritted her teeth, poured more power into the crack. The god roared, actually roared, a sound that made the entire citadel shake. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. This was it. The final crack. The last barrier between stability and catastrophe. The crack closed another inch, then another. The god's presence grew frantic, throwing everything it had against her seal. Power crashed against power. Will against will. And Erin realized something. The god was scared, not of her specifically, but of what she represented. For 3 centuries, it had been the strongest thing in this prison, slowly wearing down the seal through pure persistence. It had expected to win eventually, had planned for it, and now some human girl who'd been transformed less than a day ago was holding it back. That had to be infuriating. The thought made Erin smile, then laugh. The sound came out slightly unhinged, rough with exhaustion and pain and triumph. Something funny? Rhett asked. I'm annoying a god, Erin managed between laughs. Feels good. She pushed one more time, hard, throwing everything she had left into the crack, sealing it with power and will and sheer bloody-minded determination. The crack closed. The white stone pulsed once. Bright, brilliant, clean. All the sickly green light vanished from the throne room. The symbols carved into the walls blazed gold, then settled into a steady, healthy glow. And through the connection, Erin felt the seal snap into place. Not perfect. There was still damage, still weaknesses that would need monitoring, but stable, holding, no longer on the verge of catastrophic failure. She'd done it. Erin sagged in the throne, utterly exhausted. Her capacity was at 0. Her body had pushed past its limits and then kept going through sheer willpower. The stone spreading through her had progressed further. She could feel it in her chest now, wrapped around her heart. But she was alive, and so was everyone else. Is it done? Rhett asked. He looked ready to collapse himself. Please tell me it's done. It's done, Soren confirmed. He was leaning against a pillar, eyes closed. The seal is stable, all fractures sealed. The god's influence is contained. For how long? Kaelor asked. Unknown. Could be decades, could be centuries. Depends on how well Erin maintains it. Soren opened his eyes, looked at her. You're the seal now. Its stability is tied to yours. Stay alive, stay strong, and it holds. Weaken or die, and we're back where we started. No pressure, Aaron repeated faintly. Actually, that's exactly what it is, constant pressure, forever. Soren's smile was cold. Welcome to being a guardian. Aaron wanted to respond, but exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. Her vision went dark at the edges. The last thing she heard before unconsciousness took her was Kaylor's voice, calm and reassuring. I've got you. You did it. Rest now. Then nothing. She woke in her room in the massive bed under furs that were finally warm enough. Sunlight, actual sunlight, streamed through a window she hadn't noticed before. Not from outside. The citadel was still carved into a mountain. But somehow, impossibly, there was light. Erin sat up slowly. Her body felt different, heavier, stronger. The stone quality had spread further during her unconsciousness, covering most of her torso now. She looked at her hands, still recognizably hers, but denser somehow, more solid. The door opened. Kaylor entered, carrying a tray of food. He stopped when he saw she was awake. How long? Erin asked. Her voice was different too, rougher, the stone affecting her throat. 2 days. Your body needed time to adapt to what you did. Kaylor set the tray on the table. You sealed the entire system, stabilized 3 centuries of accumulated damage in a few hours. He shook his head. No one's ever done anything like that. Did it work? Is the valley... Look! Kaylor gestured to the window. Erin climbed out of bed, her movements stiff but functional. She crossed to the window and looked out. The window showed the valley below, and Erin's breath caught. It was spring, not everywhere. Not completely, but in the area where she'd cracked the winter before passing out, there were green fields, trees with leaves, a river flowing with actual water instead of ice, and in the distance, tiny figures moving through Harrow's End, people outside without heavy furs, children playing in grass instead of snow. You did that, Kaylor said quietly. While you were unconscious, your control over the seals solidified. The changes you made, redirecting the power, thawing the land, they accelerated. In 2 days, you've reversed 17 years of winter in a quarter of the valley. And the rest? Will take time. The seal is stable, but redirecting that much power gradually is safer than doing it all at once. Soren estimates another month before the entire valley thaws completely. Erin pressed her hand against the window. The glass was warm. Real warmth, not the artificial heat from the Citadel's fires. My sister, can I... Not yet. Your transformation isn't complete. Going outside the Citadel right now, you destabilize. The seal needs you here while your body finishes adapting. Kaylor's expression was gentle. But soon, maybe a few weeks, then you can see her. She'll think I'm dead. Davin told her the truth about what you did, what you became. Kaylor smiled slightly. According to the reports we've been getting, yes, we have scouts now, things are different. She's been bragging about her sister to anyone who'll listen. You're apparently a legend in Harrow's End. Great, that's not weird at all. You saved them, gave them their valley back. Let them celebrate. Kaylor's hand landed on her shoulder, warm and solid. You earned it. Erin looked out at the greening valley, at the life returning after 17 years of death. She'd given up her humanity for this, given up any chance of a normal life. But standing here, seeing actual spring, feeling warmth that wasn't artificial, it was worth it. What happens now? She asked. Now you train, learn to control the seal properly, figure out how to exist as whatever you've become. Kaylor's voice held something new, not quite hope, but close. And we help you. All of us. You freed us from the curse. This is the least we can do. You don't owe me anything. That's not true. But even if it were, Kaylor squeezed her shoulder gently. We're staying because we want to. Because for the first time in 3 centuries, we have a purpose beyond just surviving. We can help you rebuild, help the valley recover. Maybe even... He stopped. What? Maybe even become the guardians we were supposed to be. Before the curse. Before we forgot what we were protecting. Kaylor's smile was real this time. You reminded us. Thank you for that. Erin turned from the window, looked at Kaylor fully. At this warrior who'd spent 300 years dying and still found the strength to fight. We're going to make this work, all of it. The seal, the valley, whatever comes next. Together. Together, Kalor agreed. From somewhere deeper in the citadel, she heard Rhett's laugh echoing through corridors, heard Soren's voice responding with something that might have been humor. The citadel felt different now, less like a tomb and more like home. It felt like home. Erin looked down at her transformed hands, at the chains fused into her wrists, at the stone spreading through her body. She wasn't human anymore. Wasn't quite anything else either. She was something new. Something the world hadn't seen before. A guardian. A seal. A woman who'd chosen to carry impossible weight so others wouldn't have to. Outside her window, spring continued to spread across the valley, and deep in the citadel's heart, the imprisoned god settled into its prison, defeated for now but patient. It could wait. It was good at waiting. But so was Erin, and she had friends now, power, purpose. Let it wait. She'd be ready. 3 weeks passed before Erin walked through the citadel gates as herself and not as the seal's prisoner. The transformation had completed during those weeks, a gradual settling of power and flesh into something stable. The stone didn't spread further, locked at her chest and throat in patterns that looked almost decorative if you didn't know what they represented. Her voice stayed rough but functional. Her strength remained inhuman, and the connection to the seal became as natural as breathing used to be. She stood now at the top of the mountain path, looking down at Harrow's End. The village had changed. Green surrounded the buildings where snow used to pile. Smoke from chimneys looked different, less desperate, more comfortable. And in the fields beyond, tiny figures worked the earth, planting seeds in soil that had finally thawed. "You ready for this?" Rhett asked from beside her. He'd insisted on coming, said she needed backup in case the villagers decided to try killing her again. Erin suspected he just wanted an excuse to leave the citadel. Not even a little bit. Erin started down the path, her bare feet finding purchase on stone that would have torn human skin but barely registered to her transformed body. She'd tried wearing boots. They'd lasted 3 steps before her new strength shredded them. But that's never stopped me before. The walk took an hour. People saw them coming, saw her coming, long before they reached the village proper. By the time Erin's feet touched the main street, a crowd had gathered, 200 faces, give or take, everyone who remained in Harrow's End. They stared at her, at the stone visible at her throat, at her eyes that reflected light wrong, at the way she moved with predatory grace that no human possessed. Recognition warred with fear on most faces. A few showed awe. Eldercroft, standing at the crowd's edge, just looked tired. Then someone pushed through the mass of people. Small, dark-haired, 14 years old and furious. 3 weeks, Mira said. Her voice shook. 3 weeks and not a single word. I didn't know if... Her voice broke. Erin crossed the distance between them in 2 strides and pulled her sister into a hug. Mira stiffened, then collapsed against her, sobbing. Erin held her, feeling how fragile her sister was compared to what she'd become. Like holding glass. One wrong move and Mira would shatter. "I'm sorry," Erin said into her sister's hair. "I'm so sorry. I wanted to come sooner, but I know. Davin told me. About the seal. About what you did." Mira pulled back, looked up at Erin's face. Her eyes were red from crying but fierce. "You're an idiot. You know that, right? A complete idiot for taking that curse." "Probably." "Definitely." Mira's hands gripped Erin's arms, and Erin felt her sister register the difference in texture, the stone hardness beneath flesh. "But you saved us. All of us. So I guess I can forgive the idiot part." "Generous of you. I'm a generous person." Mira's smile wobbled. "Can you stay? Or do you have to go back?" "I can stay for a while. A few hours, maybe. The seal needs me close, but I've got some flexibility now." Erin touched her sister's face, careful not to press too hard. "And I'll come back. Once a week if I can manage it. Maybe more as I get better at controlling things." "Promise?" "I promise." Mira hugged her again, fiercer this time. Then she stepped back, wiped her eyes, and seemed to notice Rhett for the first time. Her expression went wary. "You're one of them, the Guardians." "Guilty." Rhett's smile was careful, non-threatening. "Name's Rhett. I'm here to make sure no one tries to murder your sister again." "Will they?" Mira looked at the crowd, suddenly uncertain. "Let's find out." Erin turned to face the village. The crowd had grown, drawn by the commotion. She saw familiar faces: Davin, Torek, old Marin, who'd taught healing, families she'd known since childhood. "I'm guessing you all have questions." Silence. Then Elder Croft stepped forward. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago, bent under weight that wasn't physical. "The winter," he said. His voice carried across the sudden quiet. "It's ending, not just pausing, actually ending. Trees are growing, the river's flowing. We've had rain." He said that last word like it was miraculous. "How?" "The seal that kept the valley frozen. I control it now. I've been redirecting the power, letting warmth back in gradually." Erin kept her voice level, factual. "In another 2 weeks, maybe 3, the entire valley should be fully thawed. Spring will come, then summer, then fall, actual seasons." Someone in the crowd gasped. Someone else started crying. An older woman, Erin thought her name was Desta, fell to her knees. "You gave us our lives back," Desta said. Tears streamed down her weathered face. "My grandchildren, they'll see summer. Actual summer. They'll know warmth." That was the idea. Erin's throat felt tight and not from the stone. No more sacrifices. No more choosing who lives and dies based on fuel rations. Just life. Normal life. For everyone. "At what cost?" Croft asked. His voice was sharp. "You're not human anymore. I can see it. You move wrong. Your eyes are wrong. What did you give up for this?" "Everything that made me one of you." Erin met his gaze steadily. "My humanity. My chance at a normal life. Any hope of leaving that citadel for more than a few hours at a time. I'm bound to the seal now. When I die, if I die, someone else will have to take my place, or the winter returns and everything freezes in seconds." She paused. "But that's my burden. Not yours. Not anymore." "You should have consulted us," Croft said. "The elders, the council. This affects everyone." "The council sent my mother to die," Erin interrupted. Cold rage bled into her voice, turning it sharp. "Sent me to die. Sent how many others over how many generations? You don't get to lecture me about consultation when you've been making decisions about people's lives without their input for centuries." Croft's face darkened. "We did what was necessary." "You did what was easy. There's a difference." Erin took a step forward, and the crowd instinctively moved back. She was taller than she'd been, her transformed body adding inches. "You could have looked for another way, could have tried to negotiate with the Guardians, understand the real situation. But instead, you told comfortable lies and sent girls to their deaths. So no, I didn't consult you, and I'm not sorry about it." "Then what happens now?" A voice from the crowd, Torek, his expression conflicted. "If you control the seal, control the valley's fate, what stops you from becoming exactly what we feared? A monster with power over life and death?" "Nothing," Erin said simply. The honesty seemed to shock them. "Nothing stops me except my own choice not to be that. You're going to have to trust that the same person who gave up everything to save you isn't suddenly going to turn tyrant." "Trust?" Croft laughed bitterly. "You're asking for trust when you fundamentally changed what you are?" "I'm asking for the same trust you demanded when you sent me up that mountain." Erin's voice dropped, going quiet and dangerous. "You trusted I'd die to save you. I'm asking you to trust I'll live to do the same. Seems fair." Silence. The crowd shifted, uncertain. Then Davin stepped forward. "I trust her," he said loudly. "She's earned it. Erin could have let us all freeze, could have sealed that citadel and left us to die. Instead, she's giving us spring." He looked around at the others. "I don't care what she looks like now. I care what she's done. And what she's done is save all our lives." "Same," Mira added. Her voice was smaller than Davin's, but no less fierce. "She's my sister. She's always been stubborn and reckless and too brave for her own good. That hasn't changed just because her body did." "She killed those things!" another voice called out. Erin recognized the speaker, Jessa, whose husband had been in the raiding party. "My Tam said he saw her seal cracks in reality with her bare hands. Said she fought off creatures from the lower chambers. If that's what being a monster looks like, then maybe monsters aren't so bad." More voices joined in. Not everyone. Erin could see plenty of skeptical faces, plenty of people who'd take convincing. But enough. Enough to shift the mood from hostile to uncertain to cautiously hopeful. Elder Croft looked around at his village, at people who were slipping from his control, and his face hardened. This is a mistake. Putting our faith in something inhuman. She's more human than you are, old Marin said. The healer stepped forward, leaning on her cane. I've lived 73 years in this valley. Watched the winter kill my children, my husband, half the people I loved. And in those 73 years, I've seen plenty of humans make monstrous choices. She looked at Aaron. What you did, choosing to carry that burden, that's not monstrous. That's the most human thing I've ever witnessed. Aaron's eyes burned. She blinked hard, forcing back tears that wanted to fall. Thank you, she managed. Don't thank me. Just keep doing what you're doing. Marin smiled. And come by later. I want to examine those changes, see if there's anything I should know medically. I don't think normal medicine applies anymore. Then we'll figure out new medicine. That's what healers do. Marin turned to the crowd. Anyone else have stupid questions, or can we let the girl who saved us have a moment with her family? The crowd began to disperse slowly with backward glances. Some people approached Aaron first, thanking her, touching her arm carefully, asking questions about the seal and the citadel and what life would be like now. She answered as best she could, patient despite exhaustion. Eventually, only a small group remained. Mira, Davin, Marin, and Torek. Croft had left without another word, his expression sour. He's going to be a problem, Torek said, watching the elders retreating back. Croft, he's spent 40 years running this village. He won't give up control easily. I'm not asking him to give up control. I'm asking him to stop sending people to die. Aaron sat down on the edge of the village well, suddenly tired. Her body didn't fatigue the way it used to, but emotional exhaustion still hit hard. He can run the village however he wants. I just want the sacrifices to stop. They will, Davin said firmly. Everyone saw what happened, saw the Guardians freed, saw the winter cracking. Even Croft can't argue with results that obvious. He'll try, Mira predicted. He's stubborn, stupidly stubborn. Wonder where I've heard that before, Aaron said dryly, and Mira grinned. They talked for another hour. Mira caught Aaron up on everything that had happened in the 3 weeks. The shock when warmth first returned, the frantic planting as people rushed to take advantage of thawed ground, the arguments between those who wanted to celebrate and those who remained suspicious. Davin described the changes to the forest, how animals were returning after 17 years of absence. Marin discussed medical improvements now that people weren't constantly on the edge of freezing to death. It was normal. Wonderfully, impossibly normal. And Aaron found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't since before her mother disappeared. Then Rhett, who'd been standing guard at a polite distance, suddenly tensed. We've got incoming. Fast. Aaron stood, her senses sharpening. She felt it through the connection to the seal, a disturbance in the citadel. Not an attack, but something was wrong. Soren appeared at the far end of the village, moving with his characteristic precision. When he reached them, his silver eyes were worried. We have a situation. You need to come back. Now. What kind of situation? The kind where the imprisoned god is testing boundaries again. It learned from last time. It's being subtler, but... Soren's jaw tightened. I think it's found a weakness we missed. Aaron looked at Mira, who'd gone pale. I have to go. I know. Mira grabbed her hand. But you'll come back next week, promise. I promise. Aaron hugged her sister quickly, then turned to Rhett and Soren. Let's move. They ran. Not human running, transformed running, eating up the mountain path in minutes that should have taken an hour. By the time they reached the citadel gates, Aaron's senses were screaming warnings. Inside, Kaelor waited in the courtyard. His expression was grim. It's not a direct attack, it's more subtle. The god is leaking influence through micro-fractures in the seal. Too small for us to detect normally, but they're spreading. Show me. Aaron strode toward the throne room, feeling the seal's status in her mind. Kaelor was right. She could sense them now that she knew what to look for. Hairline cracks, hundreds of them, threading through the structure like veins. In the throne room, the white stone pulsed irregularly. Not failing, not yet, but stressed. The god's presence pushed against those microfractures, widening them molecule by molecule. It's patient, Soren said. It can't break out through brute force anymore, so it's going slow, death by 1,000 cuts. How long until those fractures become a real problem? months, maybe years. But eventually, they'll widen enough that the seal destabilizes again. Kaylor's hands clenched into fists. We sealed the major damage. We didn't account for this kind of persistent, low-level assault. Erin sat in the throne, felt the power flow through her. The microfractures were everywhere, too numerous to seal individually. Trying to patch them one by one would take forever, and the god would just make more while she worked. She needed a different approach. What if I don't seal them? Erin said slowly. An idea was forming, risky, but possibly brilliant. What if I reinforce the structure around them instead? Explain, Soren demanded. The god is exploiting weaknesses in the seal. Fine. But if I strengthen everything around those weaknesses, the fractures become irrelevant. They can exist without threatening the whole structure. Erin's mind raced, processing possibilities. It's like scar tissue. The cracks are there, but the surrounding material is strong enough that they can't spread. That's never been tried, Kaylor said. Nothing I've done has been tried before. Why stop now? Erin reached for the power, but differently this time. Not trying to seal or heal, just reinforce. She poured strength into the seal's structure, building up layers around each microfracture, not closing them, just containing them. The god noticed immediately. Its presence in her mind shifted from patient persistence to sharp attention. What are you doing? The god's voice echoed in dimensions that hurt. That's not how the seal works. It is now. I'm the seal, remember? I get to decide how it functions. Erin pushed more power into the reinforcement, feeling the structure stabilize. You want to play the long game? Fine. I'm better at it than you are. You're mortal. You'll die. I've got eternity. Maybe, but I've got friends, and when I die, one of them takes over. You're not fighting one guardian anymore. You're fighting a legacy. Erin felt the last reinforcement snap into place. The microfractures remained, but they were locked in place now, unable to spread. And we're very, very stubborn. The god was silent for a long moment. Then, incredibly, it laughed. You're entertaining, I'll give you that. Fine, round 2 goes to you, but there will be a round 3. I'll be ready. The presence withdrew, settling back into its prison. The Whitestone's pulse stabilized, returning to the healthy rhythm Erin had established. She opened her eyes, found all 3 guardians staring at her. Did you just trash-talk a god? Rhett asked. He sounded impressed and horrified in equal measure. Seemed appropriate. Erin stood, testing her body. The reinforcement had taken less out of her than the major sealing. She was getting better at this. It worked. The seal's stable again, and the god knows we're not going to roll over for it. That was reckless, Soren said, but his silver eyes held something that might have been respect. Also effective. I'm conflicted about whether to congratulate you or lecture you. Save it for next time. I'm sure there will be a next time. Erin walked to the window, looked out at the valley below. More green had spread during her brief visit to the village. In a few weeks, winter would be a memory. What now? Kaylor asked. The seal's stable. The valley's recovering. You've proven you can handle the god's tricks. What's next? Erin thought about that. About the valley below. About her sister planting seeds in thawed ground. About the people who were learning to live without fear. About this citadel that was no longer a prison, but might become something else. A sanctuary. A place of power used for protection instead of punishment. Now we build something better, she said. The old system, sacrifices and fear and isolated guardians dying alone, that's done. We're creating something new. Such as? Soren asked. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Erin turned to face them. The 3 of you are free. You don't have to stay here. You could leave, see the world, live the lives you gave up 3 centuries ago. Where would we go? Rhett asked. Everyone we knew is dead. The world we left doesn't exist anymore. And honestly, he grinned, this is the most interesting thing that's happened to me in 300 years. I'm not missing what comes next. The seal needs maintaining, Soren added. You're powerful, but you're still learning. You'll need guidance, instruction. Someone to handle the technical aspects while you manage the big picture. He paused. Also, someone needs to make sure you don't do anything stupid. That seems like a full-time job. I'm staying because I want to, Kaylor said simply. Because for the first time since the curse was cast, I have a purpose beyond just surviving, You gave us that. The least we can do is help you fulfill it. Erin felt something loosen in her chest. She wasn't alone. Whatever came next, maintaining the seal, managing the valley's recovery, dealing with gods and politicians, and the everyday crises that came with power, she had help. All right then, she said. Partners? Equals. No more guardians and tribute, just us, figuring things out together. I can work with that, Rhett said. Acceptable, Soren agreed. Kaylor just smiled. What's the first order of business? The East Wing still needs repairs, the village needs education about the seal and how things work now. I need to establish regular visits with Mira. Erin ticked items off on her fingers. And we should probably do something about Eldercroft before he decides to organize another raiding party. Leave Croft to me, Kaylor said. I'll pay him a visit. Explain very clearly that the old ways are finished and attempting to restore them would be unhealthy. Try not to terrify him too much. I make no promises. They spent the next several hours planning. Practical things. Schedules for maintaining the seal, rotations for who would accompany Erin to the village, strategies for dealing with problems as they arose. It felt strange and wonderful to be working together instead of against each other, or just struggling to survive. As evening approached, Erin found herself back on the balcony overlooking the valley. The sun was setting, the first real sunset she'd seen in weeks, painted across a sky that wasn't choked with winter storms. The valley glowed gold and green beneath it. Kaylor joined her, silent for a moment. Then, your mother would be proud. Erin's throat tightened. You think so? I know so. She spent 15 years here hoping someone would find a better way. You did. You broke a system that should have been unbreakable. Kaylor's voice was soft. She would have loved to see this. The valley healing, you transformed but alive, a future instead of just endless repetition. I wish she could have seen it too. Maybe she does. Wherever she is. Kaylor's hand touched her shoulder briefly. You kept her dream alive. That matters. They stood together watching the sunset turn the valley into a painting. Spring was coming, summer after that. Actual seasons for people who'd forgotten they existed. The seal pulsed in Erin's chest, steady and strong. It would need constant attention. The god would test boundaries again. There would be crises and complications, and moments where everything threatened to fall apart. But Erin had survived winter and transformation and fighting a god to a draw. She could handle whatever came next. Behind her, she heard Rhett's laugh echoing through the citadel, heard Soren responding with something dry and cutting. The citadel felt alive now, full of voices and purpose, and the kind of chaotic energy that came from people actually living instead of just existing. This was her life now. Guardian, seal, bridge between the mortal world and the power that could destroy it. It wasn't the life she'd planned when she walked up that mountain path barefoot and chained. It was better. 3 weeks later, Erin stood in Harrow's End's central square beside her sister. They'd come for the spring festival, the first one in 17 years. The whole village had gathered, and people from neighboring settlements too. Word had spread about the valley that was thawing, about the girl who'd become something else to save them all. The celebration was loud and chaotic and beautiful. Music played on instruments that had been silent for years. Children ran through grass instead of snow. Food that had been impossible to grow was being shared freely. People laughed without the edge of desperation that used to color everything. Eldercroft was there, standing apart from the main celebration. He'd been quiet since Kaylor's visit, less openly hostile. Erin thought he might still hate what she'd become, but he'd accepted it. That was progress. "Speech!" someone called out. Others took up the cry. "Speech! Let's hear from the Guardian!" Erin really didn't want to make a speech, but Mira elbowed her, and the crowd was looking at her with expectation and hope and gratitude, so she climbed onto the platform where musicians had been performing. The square fell quiet. "I'm not good at speeches," Erin started. Laughter rippled through the crowd. "But I wanted to say, this is what we fought for, not just survival, but life, real life. Seasons and celebrations and futures that extend beyond the next winter." She looked around at the faces watching her, saw old and young, scared and hopeful, skeptical and believing. All of them alive because she'd made a choice on a stone throne. The old system is dead. No more sacrifices. No more choosing who lives and dies. From now on, the Citadel protects instead of consuming. and I'll make sure it stays that way. That's my promise to all of you." Someone started clapping. Others joined in. The applause built until it echoed off the surrounding mountains, and Erin felt her eyes burning again. Mira climbed onto the platform beside her, grabbed her hand. "You did good," she said quietly, just for Erin. "Really good." "We're not done yet. Lots of work left." "Yeah, but for tonight, let's just celebrate." Mira grinned. "Come on. Davin promised to teach me that dance from before the winter. You should learn it too." "I'm not much of a dancer anymore." "Neither is Davin, and that's not stopping him. Come on." Mira dragged her down from the platform, into the crowd, into the celebration. Erin let herself be pulled along, let herself smile and almost forget the weight she carried. Music swirled around her. People danced badly and didn't care. Children played games their parents had forgotten existed. And overhead, stars emerged in a sky finally clear of winter storms. Later, much later, when the celebration had wound down and most people had gone home, Erin stood at the village edge with Kaelor, Rhett, and Soren. Time to return to the citadel. The seal was stable, but it needed attention. It always would. "You could stay," Mira said. She'd followed them, wasn't quite ready to let her sister go. "Just for tonight. Sleep in the village instead of the citadel." "I can't. Not yet. The seal needs me close." Erin hugged her sister. "But soon. Maybe in a few months, when things are more stable. I'll spend a whole week down here. We'll make up for lost time." "I'm holding you to that." Mira's voice was muffled against Erin's shoulder. "And if you break that promise, I'll march up that mountain and drag you back." "I believe you would." Erin pulled back, smiled. "Take care of yourself. Learn everything Marin can teach you. And don't let Croft bully anyone. That's more your style than mine. But I'll try." Mira stepped back, wiping her eyes. "Go. Before I start crying again and embarrass myself." Erin walked away before she could change her mind, the three guardians falling into step beside her. They climbed the mountain path in comfortable silence, and when Erin looked back, she could see the village lights below, small and warm against the darkness. Alive. At the citadel gates, Rhett paused. "You know what's funny? A month ago, we were waiting to die. Now we're planning festivals and arguing about agricultural schedules. Life's weird." "Weird good or weird bad?" Erin asked. "Weird good. Definitely weird good." They entered the citadel, and the gates closed behind them. Not locked, just closed. Because this wasn't a prison anymore. It was a home, a headquarters, a place where power was held not for domination but for protection. Erin made her way to the throne room, sat in the throne that had become as familiar as her own bed. The white stone pulsed against her back, steady and strong. She reached for the seal, checked its status, all stable. The reinforcements she'd built were holding. The god was quiet, biding its time. Let it bide. She'd be here when it tried again, and the time after that. And every time after, for however long her transformed body lasted. She wasn't a victim anymore. Wasn't a sacrifice. She was a guardian in the truest sense. Someone who chose to stand between danger and the people she loved. Someone who turned a curse into protection and fear into hope. The valley was healing. Spring had come. And Erin Vale, who'd walked barefoot into death and come back as something else entirely, sat on her throne and kept watch over them all. The seal pulsed in time with her heartbeat, strong, steady, unbreaking. This was her purpose, her choice, her power. And she'd earned every bit of it. Outside, the first stars of true spring blazed across a clear sky. In the valley below, people slept without fear of freezing. In the citadel, 3 ancient warriors laughed in halls that had known only silence for centuries. And in the throne room, a woman who was no longer quite human, but still absolutely herself, smiled and thought about the future. They'd built something new from the ashes of the old. Something better. Something that would last. And when the imprisoned god eventually tried again, because it would, she knew that, Erin would be ready. She was always ready now. That's what guardians did.